Well, ladies and gentlemen, would it be a slight understatement to say that it has been a challenging 2020 so far? Certainly the longest leap year in history, right? 29 days of February, of course, and 300 days of March, and at least 5 years of April through August, or at least it feels that way. But in spite of COVID, I'm absolutely overwhelmed and touched by the turnout of RPAG members at the Ritz-Carlton for this, our 16th annual conference. Oh, wait a minute. That's right. We're doing a virtual conference this year. Let's roll the opening video and we'll convene someplace more comfortable. While we can't all experience the beautiful ocean view of the Ritz-Carlton together in person, hopefully next year, we'll all be back at this beautiful property. Here's a little reminder of what we all have to look forward to when we meet again in person, hopefully next year. So as I started to say in the ballroom, are we having fun yet? Tumultuous times, many disconsolate people. In addition to COVID, social and civil unrest, and the concomitant uncertainty, frustration, and anger that for many have reached unprecedented levels. Hey, remember the good old days of 2008 when you thought that nothing could be more stressful than a trifecta financial meltdown, recession, and bear market? But in fact, a brief history lesson teaches us that every decade or so, there is what Nassim Taleb in his book calls a black swan, one or more 4 standard deviation events that rock our world. Consider those born shortly after the turn of the last century, about 1900 to 1910. They had a lot to endure. They lived through World War I, 40 million worldwide casualties, followed by the Spanish flu pandemic that killed 50 million people worldwide. World War II after that, another 50 to 70 million deaths, followed by the Korean and Vietnam Wars, the assassination of Martin Luther King and John F. Kennedy, numerous severe recessions, and even a polio epidemic along the way until a vaccine was created in the late 50s. That's about 10 major events over 70 years. And of course, let's get to the most important event ever, the oil embargo and shortage of 1975. Why? Because it's the year I passed my driver's license test, just in time to wait in 4-hour lines at gas stations. Well, at least I drove a 40 horsepower 1963 VW. They went forever on a 10-gallon tank. So if there is one lesson that I've learned in my 175 years on this planet, to not only accept, but embrace, it is that there will be events beyond our individual control that are going to knock us back and maybe knock us down. and on a regular basis throughout our lifetimes. That's just the way it is. But the human condition is to get back up, dust ourselves off, rise above, and live life to the fullest. Success and life finds a way for those that do something about it. Two branches of the military do something about it. The Marines adapt, improvise, and overcome. The Air Force, they practice the OODA loop: observe, orient, decide, and act. The British citizens of World War II, affectionately known as the Londoners, certainly were inspiring in their resolve to adapt, improvise, and overcome. However daunting our daily lives may be right now, clear your head for a moment. Try this. Imagine that you looked up in the sky and bombs were dropped on your town by hundreds of airplanes for 59 consecutive nights, and virtually every day and evening thereafter for 8 months. Imagine that more than half of your neighbors lose their home, 10% of the residents around you killed or injured. What would you do? Well, the collective resolve of the British residents of London refused to be intimidated. They stayed and endured the German blitzkrieg. They went to work, to the theater. They played soccer, went for walks, and socialized. They honored themselves and each other by living their lives to the fullest and by supporting one another. They were unified in a common cause to beat the Nazis. What does this all have to do with you and RPAG and us? Well, together, we have weathered every financial, economic, stock market, regulatory, political, social, civil, and now pandemic storm over the last 20 years. How? By observing, by adapting, improvising, and overcoming. And we are doing it again. You are doing it, and we are doing it together. We have been at our best when our best was needed. A cornerstone of John Wooden's pyramid of success. And together, we've emerged stronger each and every time, and we will again this time. We haven't just survived, we have thrived. And together, we're stronger than ever. But look, I'm not going to paint some bucolic Norman Rockwell image of the challenges we face today. We're dealing with some serious social issues as a country, in addition to the fact that most of us have had at least occasional bouts in the past several months with the COVID quarantine blues. Sounds like a hit country song, doesn't it? So my wife Susie and I decided that we too needed to adapt, improvise, and overcome, and do something that would make our world a little brighter, and hopefully yours, if only for a moment. And it would also help me accomplish one of my 2 objectives in the remaining time we have together. The first of which is to simply put a smile on your face. Because even in the age of COVID, it's okay for smiles to be infectious. In fact, I dare you not to smile in about the next 5 seconds. Ready? Meet Bourbon, 8 weeks old and the newest member of the Giovinazzo family. Our 6th Labrador, and hopefully this puppy will grow up to be a therapy dog and help others. Seems somewhat ironic, doesn't it, that this little guy would have the power to instantly instill warm thoughts and feelings of gratitude, which is the second of my 2 objectives. Why? Because expressing and feeling gratitude causes the pituitary gland to release oxytocin and serotonin, sometimes called the happiness and bonding brain chemicals. And God knows we need more of that right now. Let's begin with a big thank you for your generosity tremendous generosity for helping RPAG raise approximately $150,000 over the past few years for the Wounded Veterans Initiative of Canine Companions for Independence. And if you ever want to see the tremendous impact your donations have had on the lives of veterans, spend an afternoon with us in Oceanside, California, watching a graduation where these lovely companions are introduced to the veteran that they have been paired with. You'll laugh, cry, and walk away with an oxytocin and serotonin infused warm glow. Gratitude. Last year we gave 400 RPAG conference attendees $20 each, and we asked you to spend it in some worthy cause. 21 of you took the time to write me an email with your heartwarming stories. Thank you for doing that. It meant so much to me. There isn't enough time to review them all. However, here is some of the inspiring work that you've done in the past year. Paula Hendrickson, who played college basketball, turned $20 into 200 donations, 100 in support of the women's basketball program at her alma mater, and another 100 donations to a women's nonprofit group whose 4 pillars are children, health, women, and education. Anthony Powers, who unfortunately lost his 1-year-old Labrador to a rare eye infection, was inspired to turn the $20 into more than $2,000 for Putts for Paws, what a great name, whose motto is giving animals a second chance at life and love. Matthew Carbray turned $20 into $2,500 for the Hartford Boys and Girls Club. Jerry Arndt spends nearly every Saturday from September through November constructing Habitat for Humanity homes in Baton Rouge. If that's not enough, and it is, he turned $20 into a $250 Habitat for Humanity donation. Jason Labrum and his 2 boys turned $20 into a new wardrobe of clothes for an abused child that they spent the day with through the Boys and Girls Club of Carlsbad. Greg Taylor added 49 more $20 bills and donated to, as he says, the dogs, which is almost God spelled backwards. And take a deep breath for this last one, so here goes. And I'll read this one verbatim. I was on a business trip to San Francisco after the RPAG conference, still thinking about how to make a difference with the $20, when my world came crashing down. I received the worst news imaginable. My 30-year-old daughter had passed away from carbon monoxide poisoning. I held on to the $20 for weeks, still trying to find meaning and purpose in all of this. 2 months later, my son and I attended a Salute to America's Veterans event hosted by the Dallas Rotary Club. My son had just served 8 years in the United States Air Force. One of the benefactors of this event is the USO, which, for those of you that don't know, is an organization that keeps America's military service members connected to family, home, and country, helping them get through the toughest of times. During the presentation, the Master of Ceremonies asked everyone in the audience who had been touched by the USO during their active duty to stand up. At that moment, my son stood up with quite a few others, and because of everything my family had been through with the loss of our daughter, I, along with many others that day, felt compelled to contribute to the DFW USO organization to help other young men and women who serve our great country and are sent away from their families, some of which have made the ultimate sacrifice. I believe your $20 went to a good service organization. That's an understatement. And hopefully others were inspired to do the same. I guarantee they were. That story is from Adrian Castillo with Resolute Investment Managers. Gratitude and humility, even in the face of unimaginable pain. Adrian, our thoughts go out to you and your family. And RPAG will be making a $1,000 donation to your son and daughter's name, both, to the DFW USO. Gratitude. Before turning it over to Nick, Speaking of gratitude, I would like to honor 2 RPAG co-founders that have shaped virtually every facet of our organization since we opened the doors of our sister company, 401k Advisors, now NFP, on June 1st, 2000. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "Your actions speak so loudly that I can't even hear what you say." In that regard, Veronica Lee and Jamie Chapman lead by example. The foundation of RPAG's DNA is deep humility and gratitude. And we owe that culture, we all owe that culture to Jamie and Veronica. These 2 aren't only great women leaders, they are among the most influential leaders in our industry, period. Some of the best and brightest young minds in our industry are with NFP, RPAG, and FlexPath, no doubt about it. And they have all been mentored by the gentle and caring leadership of Jamie and Veronica. In the late 1990s, I had the opportunity to see Veronica conduct a 401k enrollment meeting prior to the beginning of 401k Advisors. She was working for Great West Life, now Empower. There were about 100 people in the room, most of them tired and restless from working all night at the hospital. These were the days of overhead projectors, remember that? Which Veronica was using and which promptly had an electrical short when she plugged it in. Unfazed, she had everyone open up the enrollment kits, which she soon discovered had the wrong plan design and the wrong investment information. Undaunted, she calmly put the enrollment kits down and proceeded to mellifluously discuss the plan design and investments from memory. I think at one point the lights flickered also, but maybe that was just my imagination. Veronica has done it all, including running service for NFP Retirement and RPAG, and leading our training and employee development, and so much more. When we opened our doors in June of 2000, I had nothing to offer Veronica but the hope and dream of building the most comprehensive retirement practice management platform in the US. She made it come true. Jamie Chapman also took a chance on 401k Advisors as a co-founder more than 20 years ago. And there is no one that has a greater understanding of the operational aspects of running a retirement consulting firm. Jamie has developed complex compensation and revenue tracking systems as our Chief Financial Officer, dozens of checklists as our COO, that to this day, by the way, provide the framework for many of the systems and processes that you use on a daily basis through the RPAG portal. Jamie has had a role in the design of virtually every software application that we have ever developed. She even converted massive amounts of data into Salesforce. And she's an expert in the nuances of RAA compliance and regulatory requirements, if that's not enough. And it will come as no surprise that both of these ladies have built and continue to nurture successful and loving families. Their leadership and exemplary lives have shaped the optimum work-life balance that is deep in the cultural DNA of RPAG. What does this all have to do with you? Well, Jamie and Veronica simply make everyone around them better with a cultural obsession for excellence, innovation, and flawless execution. That was the last 20 years, and they have set the bar high for the next 20, and have paved the way for you to continue to grow your practice and dominate your marketplace. God willing, we'll all be back here in person next year. Back to the studio with the president of NFP, RPAG, and FlexPath, who leaps tall buildings with a single bound, is more powerful than a speeding locomotive, my partner and friend, Superman, Nick Dellavedova. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the conference.
Wow, that was great, Vince. Thanks again for sharing some of your thoughts as it relates to what's going on in the world, as it relates to what's going on with RPAG, and a lot of those very touching moments. So Vince, if I am Superman, that would definitely make you Tony Stark. Without a doubt, with the innovation that you have created over the last 20 years, And it's incredible that it's the 20-year anniversary this year of when you opened the doors with Veronica and Jamie with the 401k advisors. But then taking 401k advisors and evolving into 401k producer services, which then evolved into RPAG, and then FlexPath, and now planned fees. You have definitely created innovation along the way in those last 20 years. And as you mentioned, I'm excited to work with you and be your partner as we look at the next 20 years together and making sure that we continue to change the industry, because make no doubt, you have changed the industry and we are all better for that. You had also mentioned the COVID blues, and I think we've all had a little moment of COVID blues over the last few months. And even myself, I thought and looked introspectively, what are some things that I can change in this COVID time? So how can I make this a positive versus a strenuous time? And when I thought about it, if you can't tell, one of them is I got a new beard. And Jennifer, my wife, loves it, which I was surprised with, so it's probably going to be around a while. But in addition to that, I've started a couple new hobbies. So Jennifer and I have actually started golfing. Yes, the industry, I'm now golfing. I've probably turned down more golfing events than anyone in the history of our industry. And I'm also playing a little pickleball. So I'm also really, really glad and happy that Netflix continues to evolve and bring on more content. And so those are some of the shows that I've been watching, such as Yellowstone and I Am Such As That. So we've all been in this together, and as Vince mentioned, adapting and changing sometimes means actually having more fun versus less. So to the industry, the next time you ask me to play golf, I will probably say yes, so just be ready. So when we look at RPAG by the numbers, you can see that we have continued to thrive and grow at over 65,000 plans that we collectively touch, over $700 billion that we influence, and over 100 team members serving you. We are really an industry juggernaut that is something that we should all be proud of. And we continue to grow in both plans and assets as you continue to grow your business. We recognize that COVID has not allowed us to grow at the pace we wanted to, but it's great to see that we collectively are growing in a time when many people are not. Vince mentioned a little bit about the senior leadership of Veronica and Jamie. As he mentioned, they've been such sentinels to our culture, such great teachers and mentors for the group of those 100 employees. A few others I wanted to mention would include Joel Shapiro and Jeff Elvander. Both Joel and Jeff have been instrumental in not only the things I'm going to share with you going forward in the innovation, but also during COVID. They were on weekly calls making sure that we're updating you about what's going on when it comes to legislation and money management. In addition to that, I also wanted to mention Jesse Taylor. Obviously, you've seen Jesse rise over the last few years to become a real leader within RPAG. He is not only thoughtful in regards to the technology, but now has taken on the advanced role of leading sales for RPAG, as well as our sponsor partners relationships. So really excited about the team that we have in place. Frankly, Jesse's the youngest one on the team and the least experienced, but he only has over 10 years with us. So it's great to see this collective group has been together for a very long time, and we intend to stay together for a very long time going forward. So what am I going to cover today? Some things that you have heard about in the past, some new things, but what's exciting is that everything that we're touching is evolving. So yes, we've been talking about TDS for a while. We have some new ideas and thoughts there. Active CITs, it's blowing up in a good way, and we're going to share more about what we're doing there. 3038 solutions obviously become forefront when people are talking about PEPs, managed accounts, financial wellness through WellSense, it's here. Planned fees, a great way of benchmarking your clients, and then corporate sales support. So these are items that you don't really see me talking about technology and the platform, because that's what Jesse Taylor is going to be speaking after this, but it's also showing that there's so much more to RPAG than just the technology and platform. There are so many different ways that you can touch your clients on a day-to-day basis. So FlexPath, it's been something that's been around just over 5 years. And by 2015, we're at $1.2 billion. And as of this month, collectively, all the FlexPath solutions that we have have reached over $20 billion in assets. If you would have asked me 5 years ago, we'd be at $20 billion at this point, I frankly would have said no way. I would have thought maybe, on a good note, we would have been at 10 billion. So doubling our expectations because of you and because of the solutions that we've created that we believe are making and we know are making impact to not only the industry, but the end user, the participants, is absolutely profound. And what's more exciting is that we're excited about where we can take this over the next 3 to 5 years. And you're going to see a little more detail of how we're going to get there. But before I do, in recognition of gratitude, I just wanted to point out that all of our CITs, everything that we developed within FlexPath, the custodian of that is Wilmington Trust. And Rob Barnett, as many of you know, is the leader of our relationship with Wilmington Trust. And I just want to express gratitude to Rob because Rob is a can-do, get-it-done type of person. Anything we ask for, if it's in reason, he is able to create. And so I just wanted to create an opportunity to give a shout out to Rob Burnett for everything that he has done for us and will continue to do for us on a go-forward basis. Rob, as you may or may not know, is making an impact of what you can deliver to your clients, and that's significant in our relationship with you, all the RPAG members. One of the cornerstones of what we continue to preach, and we will continue to preach going forward, is the target date fund fit analysis. And that is where everything starts when it comes to reviewing target date funds. It is the most important decision in the investment lineup. The Department of Labor is telling you to do this, and our custom solutions create advantages for you, your employer, and the participants ultimately through what we've created. So the reason why I keep beating this drum is that we do not have 100% participation with the group using the target date fund fit analysis. It's something that creates a differentiator for your clients. For those of you that are not using any type of target date fund fit analysis process, we implore you to start to, because it will make a difference in the impact of your business, in the impact of your clients, and ultimately the participants. So as of right now, we have over 6,000, actually over 6,600 plans using some type of FlexPath solution. We've created 6 custom partners. They include MassMutual, Empower, Voya, TIAA, and 2 new ones, Nationwide and One America in 2020. And I want to thank the membership because as of right now, 75% of our members have used at least one FlexPath solution in one of their clients. So we look at the active CITs, this was another idea along the way. So again, when we started FlexPath 5 years ago, we did not really think about the single boxes. But what we realized is that, hey, we have this leverage in the marketplace. How else can we bring more leverage and more advantages to our RPAG membership? So we embarked upon a process to, A, see what asset classes we thought would be most beneficial to help the RPAG members and ultimately clients, and B, who frankly wanted to give us a significant advantage in the marketplace. And the first 2 to step up, actually the first 3, was BlackRock. Obviously, BlackRock's a great partner of ours when it comes to FlexPath strategies in general with the target date funds. But then also Lord Abbett and Franklin Templeton. So we rolled out the Lord Abbett core fixed income option, as well as the Franklin Templeton International, as a foray into offering active CITs to your clients at a much reduced cost. Again, the best managers in the universe at a much reduced cost. So what has happened since then? Well, in 2019, we rolled out 7 more. And now in 2020, we rolled out 7 more. So when you look at the asset classes that we are offering, it goes basically everywhere under the spectrum of what you may be looking for your clients. There are some new ones that have recently come out. The most notable one is T. Rowe Price. Blue Chip is one of the best large cap growth managers in the industry, and you now have access to it at 23% lower cost than anyone else. We've rolled out a mid cap growth from BlackRock. We've rolled out a mid cap value from American Century. We've rolled out a small cap growth, an additional small cap growth from AllianceBernstein. We rolled out small cap value from American Century, an international fund from Fidelity, another international fund from MFS. We rolled out an ESG fund from Pioneer, And then we've created a cash balance CIT that is a combination of Lord Abbett and BlackRock in an asset allocation that FlexPath Strategies is managing. So you can see the prolific growth in the CITs, and we intend to grow this on a go-forward basis. But frankly, if we didn't grow it one more CIT, you have an immense competitive advantage in the marketplace versus your peers with some of the best managers in the industry. We recognize that there is not one great manager in each asset class. We do recognize that. But our process that we go through to identify these managers recognizes they are one of the best managers in the industry in that asset class. And then we take it a step further and merely ask who would like to provide a significant advantage to our RPAG members and provide a discount. And this is the group that has done that to this point. So where else are we going from here? We're very close to rolling out a stable value CIT that will have two advantages. Obviously cost, but the second will be to have no put for, usually there is a 12-month put, to have no put for the first 12 months and beyond. So it'll create a contractual advantage for you and your employers. Another large cap value investment, we're very close of landing one of the preeminent large cap value managers in a second sleeve. We'll be looking at emerging markets, tips, REITs, and high yield. So we continue to round out the CIT offering to allow you to continue to differentiate yourself with the competition with some of the best managers in the industry. So this is something I reviewed last year, and frankly, when I was looking through my deck from last year, I thought it's still very profound. And it's more about how can you take the CITs and create an advantage for you, not just in offering more value to your clients, but frankly, an opportunity for you to generate more revenue. And so the strategic plan we put in place is that the average RPAG advisor has $400 million in assets under management. The average advisor has 50 plans. The average plan is $8 million with that math. The average investment cost for those plans today on the RPAG system is 54 basis points, 0.54%. If we moved to our CIT platform and used the majority of the CITs offered, that would reduce the cost for that plan of 34 basis points, a significant savings. So here's an idea. That's 20 basis points savings. Give 10 basis points to the participants, and figure out a way to bring additional 10 basis points of value to yourself, to your clients through you, so you can charge more. That's $400,000 of additional revenue, just like that. Just think about that for a second. Let's say I'm off. Let's say I'm inaccurate, which I'm not, but let's say I am. Let's say it's half of that. That's still $200,000 for having the same client base. An idea that we're going to be sharing with you later is that many of our advisors are taking this process and coupling in new services such as WellSense, the financial wellness platform that we rolled out in May, to then create an even deeper relationship and more value with the clients. But instead of saying to them, you have to increase your fees, I have to increase my fees, which will increase the overall fees to the program, you're doing a 1-2 punch. The first punch is to say, hey, we have this great new service, but not only do we have this great new service, we have a way to pay for it, and that's using these CITs that allow us to lower the costs overall to the participants. That's a win-win-win. It's going to be one that your clients are going to love, and they're going to thank you for that. They're going to thank you for charging them more, for delivering more service, and lowering their overall fees. A great opportunity for you. And what we found within COVID, this is the best time to talk to your existing clients. This is the best time to deepen those relationships. It's tough, frankly, to go out and get new business. But you can increase the revenue, you can increase the opportunity with your clients with this idea. So think about taking advantage of it. The FlexPath team is here to help you. So if CITs are new to you, we're here to help with general education. We have general education that you can use with your clients. So we have a lot of collateral and information for you to share. FlexPath TDF overview and comparison. So the target date fund fit analysis I shared with you, the FlexPath team will do for you. They will put everything together. They will do the analysis. They'll create a presentation for you. Take advantage of that. We're also doing what we call active book reviews, where it might be daunting for you to look at all the CITs offered and then figure out which ones might be best for you. Because frankly, there might be some great managers that you're already using, which I'm sure you are. We don't necessarily want to kick out the great managers, but sometimes you might have some managers that are slipping and there's an opportunity. So the FlexPath team will actually do a book review, take the information that you will allow them to have access to, and actually share with you what clients that you can make the biggest difference with the CITs. Not just the target date funds, but also all the active CITs we're offering. And if that's not enough, I know these guys will wash your car or they'll clean your barbecue grill. Why did I say clean your barbecue grill? Well, Kellen is the master. Kellen Foley's job prior to working here and when he was actually doing summer work through college was cleaning barbecue grills. So a nice tidbit for you to razz Kellen with. Matthew, Alex, and Jonathan are all available to help you, as well as the team behind you, to make a difference with your clients with the solutions we have in place. In addition to that, we have two great 338 solutions, one through Empower, one through Transamerica. And the advantages are it's an opportunity to outsource more of the administrative burden. It mitigates the fiduciary risk, and what I call it provides an opportunity for high-speed load drag. For those small to mid-sized clients that you don't want to be the investment expert and meeting with them quarterly, this is an opportunity for you to put them into this type of solution. Oftentimes people ask us about PEPs. The only advantage that I perceive from a PEP is that there would be $1,500 for the entire PEP versus what we have offered with these individual 338 solutions. So frankly, for the customization, anytime that I talk with someone that thinks a PEP might be best for their client, once we talk through that and really understand the limitations of a PEP, inevitably they turn to a turnkey 338 solution, such as what we already have in place. Financial wellness, it's been a big hot button for many years, and as we've discussed in the past, we went down many different routes, and what we realized is the majority of solutions out there don't involve the advisor. They leave you out. You are selling third-party information. We wanted a financial wellness solution that embraces you, the advisor, so that you are at the center of delivering that value. So when we created WellSense, we took that in mind. And as I mentioned, this has been rolled out. We have already 50 firms that have already enlisted and starting to leverage in WellSense with their clients. NFP, being the guinea pig, is already had 50 of their clients embrace and actually implement WellSense. So we're well on our way of having a lot of success. And as I mentioned, one of the differences is you are in the middle. You are the one that's orchestrating this. You're ultimately the one the employer goes to help with them, and ultimately the employees come back to you. So this service is not necessarily for someone that does not have employee communication as a heart of what they're doing. But if you do, if you are excited about employee education, if you have a wealth management arm to your organization, WellSense is a home run for you, your clients, and ultimately the employees of your clients. Home run. Please look into it more, as it will create a competitive advantage for you, for those of you that are embracing employee education. Managed accounts. We talked a little bit about this in the past, but ultimately RPAG has partnered with Morningstar to allow us to have a consistent deliverable in the managed accounts arena with all of your clients. So the idea is that the managed account we make with one record keeper, the second record keeper, the third record keeper are all the same. And then ultimately it's a consistent delivery to you, the advisor, and ultimately your clients. So if you haven't learned about the managed account offering, please reach out to actually the FlexPath team, and they'd be more than happy to get you up to date of what we have with Morningstar. And what's occurring is it's growing. So right now there's a few record keepers that we have the pipes with, but that's going to expand over time as we get to that process. As I mentioned earlier, one of the innovations from the Vince Giovinazzo private equity incubator is plan fees. And ultimately, we recognize B3 and B1 are great solutions and are well intended for plans to benchmark them. And we've always encouraged you to do that at least once every 3 years. But candidly, we recognize that doing a B3 every year would be cumbersome. So we created Plan Fees. It's a benchmarking tool to allow you to instantly and accurately benchmark the fees of your clients versus the industry benchmark, which is a collection of information we have from all the plans within the RPAG system, as well as plans outside. And ultimately what is occurring is the more Plan Fees is used, is the more data we receive, and the more data points we have. So for merely $600 a year, you can have access to this instant way of benchmarking fees. We encourage you to reach out to the team to learn more about it. It, to me, is a no-brainer as it relates to impacting and creating an opportunity for you to deliver more value economically and quickly. In addition to that, Plan Fees will actually be rolling out in Q1 of 2021 an opportunity for you to benchmark your fees. So we're going to have an easy way to you to benchmark your fees so that you can have this instantly, so you can validate to your client saying, hey, my fees are in line, but not only my fees are in line, look at all the services I'm delivering to you that the basic advisor does not. So it's going to allow you to customize the service offering within this to validate your fee structure for what you're delivering. So more to come with Plan Fees, and Jesse Taylor is going to talk more about that in the next session. Corporate sales support. We have continued to allow you to land more business with over $15 billion of sales collectively sold with the RPAG resources directly involved with you, the advisor. One of our biggest initiatives is actually working with TIAA plans. I know that the FlexPath team has shared a lot about that with you. So if you have a plan with TIAA and you're wanting to see how we can enhance that, or you have a prospect with TIAA, we have some unique solutions that will blow the socks off of your TIAA clients or prospects. So please reach out to the FlexPath team if that's something that's interest to you. So when we think about new ideas and unique solutions, there's a lot. There's a lot that we're doing behind the scenes. They're beyond the platform, beyond the technology. The platform and technology are great, and they're great because of the people around us. They're great because of the feedback you provide back to us. But we are here to serve you in a lot of different ways, and we want you to take advantage of all of them. There's an immense amount, and sometimes it might feel like you are drinking from a fire hose. But for the advisors that embrace everything on this list, as well as our technology, they are the advisors that are growing the fastest and the most profitable. So we want you to join that club within RPAG, and we're excited to work with you on an ongoing basis to do that. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Jesse Taylor to continue this great event. And again, thank you, Jesse, for everything you're doing, this great event that has a lot of opportunities for you to learn more. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Nick. Yeah, we usually bro hug at the conference, but now just got to have an elbow bump, and that's how we do it. Before I get going on innovation, and this is kind of a fun part of innovation with the technology we're using for this conference, is on the right side of your screen, there's a poll button or a poll tab, and there's a couple of questions on there that we encourage you to respond to. And just 2 questions, just take you a couple seconds, and that'll help us out for the session after mine on WellSense and financial wellness. So please take a moment and do that while you're listening to me and my update. So I'm here to talk about innovation. And innovation is really interesting. We can look at it in some ways. It's the products and services that we roll out, like Nick talked about with the different CITs and WellSense and Plan Fees, or it's even this conference. This conference is a lot of innovation because we have so much to do with our technology, this Pathable platform that we're using, the different Zoom, all the back-end production that we're doing. There's a lot of innovation, and this feels weird to not be at the Ritz-Carlton on Sunday night to do this. Instead, it's Monday morning, and we're here in our home office studio, and it's also new. As Nick mentioned, I have a new role. I'm leading our business development and sales and not as marketing, but part of what I still do is I'm deeply involved with our innovation, with our products, and with our services. And my job is always to make sure that you guys have an unfair competitive advantage when it comes to the technology and retirement platform that you have. Because at RPAG, it's really all about you. And what we've learned, especially given COVID and the pandemic and working from home, that you as an advisor are essential and central to the financial wellness and the success of a retirement plan. You, more than ever now, are important to your clients. They need you and rely on you to make sense of all the legal and regulatory issues that are going on, to make sense of volatile markets and how that's going to impact folks who are just starting the workforce or maybe entering to retirement soon. That for you as an advisor, it's all about you. And everything that we build at RPAG, all of our tools, technology, resources, solutions, it's all about you to make your lives better and to drive successful results. At RPAG, we look at every day to have a complete holistic platform. And what does that mean? You may have joined RPAG recently or maybe joined us years ago. And you may have just been looking for a new investment due diligence platform or maybe looking to streamline your benchmarking solutions. But at RPAG, we look holistically and try to build solutions and resources for everything that you need. So sometimes that's just best practices ideas. You want to hear from RPAG staff members or you want to network with your RPAG advisor peers, but you're looking for those ideas of how to grow your business or how to be a better consultant. You might be looking for back office support and you're lean and mean in your operations and you need that help. And that's what we do as a service organization, is provide that for you. You might have been looking for all their tools under one roof. Many advisors, they grow and they evolve and they're choosing an investment tool and a benchmarking tool and some fiduciary documents or marketing resources. And at some point you said, you know what, it makes sense to streamline and be efficient and house it all in one place. And we continue to provide that for you. Or you're looking for unique differentiators. For a long time, that was just having an institutional scorecard system like RPAG. But now it's evolved into WellSense and the CITs and many of the other great solutions that we're rolling out. But in all my time and years of working with you, RPAG members, what I've realized is what you're really looking to do is save time and energy. And that is even more important today, where time is really of the essence. We're all at home. Many of us have had to become elementary school teachers recently for our kids and for our families. And your clients need the time. And so to make sense and be efficient, and that's really what we want to focus on today, is saving you time and energy. And next is advisors are serious about growth. You want to be more efficient and you want to grow. And those go hand in hand. The more time that you allow for yourself to grow your business, the more you're going to be able to grow. So complete platform, whether it's looking at the great workflows and CRM-like capabilities of our portal, the mass amount of different modules and reports of our investment due diligence system, the complete benchmarking suite, our fiduciary fitness program and resources, and all the other great partnerships and innovation lab that we have, we want to continue to drive this complete platform for everything that you need. This, 2020, so we got the 2020 vision, and when we meet as a leadership each and every week, our energies and our vision for this year and beyond is save you time and energy, keep everything under one roof, and give you unique differentiators. That's our vision, that's our intent in everything that we do and we build. Because we know if we're going to save you clicks and seconds, and that's going to be minutes and hours, and that's going to be dollars and cents, and over the course of a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, that's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars of your and your team's time saved or even opportunities lost. So what do I mean by that? And with our innovation and technology, and I think it's important to kind of give you a little example, and this is a case study of an advisor I recently worked with to come on board to RPAG. 30 plans, almost 100 meetings a year, and this advisor does it all. They are every aspect of the organization. And it came to a point where they said, they're just killing their time. So what do I mean by that? If they're with just a couple of easy changes to the way that they're doing it, taking advantage of the RPAG portal, this advisor is able to save almost 350 hours in a year, right? So going from manual data entry of investment reviews into utilizing PAL for across the board, plan asset link, putting together their own spreadsheets and documents for an RFP to using the provider analysis, the B3. Maybe they're using the old antiquated book of averages and having to type stuff out, spreadsheets for their annual benchmarking, or not doing it at all, to go into using plan fees. This advisor, like most of us, was putting together meeting minute notes manually on a one-on-one basis, and now using the RPAG's automated meeting minute notes for all their meetings. They're saving countless hours, and then as well as service plans, using the templates and the copy feature within RPAG. And how does this work? This advisor was losing out on over 2 months of their own time, hundreds of thousands of dollars of their own time and compensation spent or revenue lost. Now let's scale that up to a firm with 100 plans, where they have a full team of sales, service, operations. Well, that's over 750 hours lost, and that's 19 working weeks across their organization, 35% operational time lost. This means hiring new staff members, hiring new operations team, new advisors. Just with a couple of easy basic shifts, we're able to help you out. And if you want to call our team, led by Veronica Lee, Jeff Cheshire, and our great team of ASAs, they're happy to get you up and going with these couple easy shifts. So what are these time savers? I mentioned them: PAL, Plan Asset Link, automated meeting minute notes, plan fees, fee benchmarking. The provider analysis will save you time. The service plan, business intelligence tools like our Advisor IQ and Advisor Reports, and then customizable features with our report templates, not to mention the fantastic marketing and consulting resources we have, like the Retirement Times monthly newsletter, content marketing plan, and so much more. Please take advantage of these aspects of the RPAG portal. They'll save you time, help you grow your business. Let's talk about PAL. PAL is really interesting. It's very basic, it's very easy, and I encourage you all to get on it. And you have over the past 5-6 years, where we've been making a big push. Almost 80% of all plans within RPAG are utilizing PAL. That with our monthly PAL feeds that come in from all the major providers, that's over 500,000 PAL feeds coming in that our team is scrubbing and processing so you can save time and deliver accurate reports to your clients. We have some new enhanced features that we've rolled out, something that just rolled out called Remember PAL Moves, which is really nice and keeps some of the share class or fund changes that you might make after a PAL feed comes in, as well as something that I often hear from advisors is, I took a look at PAL years ago but didn't have all the providers on there. Well, let me tell you, we have all the providers. Even providers you're not going to see on other investment tools like Fidelity and Lincoln are on RPAG's PAL system. So contact the RPAG support team or the PAL concierge team and they'll get you set up right away. Nick mentioned the fee benchmarking suite. We continue to invest in these tools as a pillar of what we do at RPAG. There's the provider analysis, formerly known as B3. It's the industry-leading live bid RFP tool. The plan fees, Nick mentioned it as well, the innovative fee benchmarking platform. Takes 2 minutes to provide that accurate, instant, and on-demand report. It's fantastic. We have so many advisors on it, and we'll be talking a little bit more. And then a partner tool of ours that we're invested in called 401kplans.com. There's a single sign-on and connectivity through RPAG, and this is a great complement to those two other tools because it's a streamlined tool for small plan proposals. I encourage you to take a look. There's RPAG fund scores in there as well as some other plan data that we're synced up and integrated with. So provider analysis, great updates to that. Recently we've been working with our TPAs out here in California as well as our partners at Future Plan to really enhance the process of what we do for the TPA request emails and the data that comes in. Enhanced service questionnaire functionality, so we're continuing to make those 450 data points the most robust service database in the industry and continue to drive that forward so you're providing accurate results to your clients. And then a great feature based off of your feedback, what you guys have delivered to us through what Vince calls, mentioned as the OTA loop. We do that as well. We take that on the technology side. We want your feedback. And many of you over the past year or two have asked for custom questions. You love our robust service questionnaire, but you're looking for maybe something that's a little bit more plan specific or customized to that unique design or employee base. And now you can put in custom questions for each proposal. You can even save them as templates, and that's going to go out and get responses from all of the top record keepers. Plan fees. Plan fees is really exciting. We've done a lot at RPAG, but I'd say plan fees is probably the most successful tool rollout that we've ever had. It was announced last year at the 2019 National Conference, and it's just under a year later since you all have had access to it, and you guys have been using the heck out of plan fees. I get the reports every week on utilization, and it continues to grow. Over 15,000 reports have been generated. There's nearly 400 users across RPAG utilizing plan fees. So if you're one of the few advisors who is not signed up or hasn't taken a look or maybe waiting and seeing, please head over to our virtual booth and talk to David Gantz and get a little one-on-one demo. It takes 2 minutes, so it's going to be the shortest tech demo of your life. And what it does is it saves you time. We know that we all have to provide an annual fee benchmarking, but there's 80% of advisors who don't actually benchmark plans every year because it's too cumbersome. You might be using some of the popular fee benchmarking tools out there. They take a long time. There's a lot of data points needed. Or you might be using that book of averages and having antiquated tool or technology. Well, you're either spending way too much or you're spending way too much time. Probably both. And plan fees is a great solution. It's extremely economical. It might be even built into your fees now. So take a look. You might even have access and not even know. And continue to use this tool and provide us that feedback. We're constantly evolving. We've made really nice updates to the UI and to the output, and we're going to continue to do so. Really exciting. In 2021, we are rolling out a couple new features into plan fees. You all have been using plan fees great, but you've asked for, you've told us, it's really nice to show how the current plan compares to its peer group. But what about if you're trying to work with a prospect and go through the red flag process of identifying and quantifying the challenges at hand? And you all have asked, is there a way to show what the pricing could be if we were to go out to bid? And we're doing just that. So we're going to have live bid averages in plan fees, and as well as Nick mentioned, that hundreds of you members have participated in the advisor fee and service survey that we recently did. And we're using that as well as the other data within RPAG to populate a new module within plan fees that's going to benchmark your fees and services and how the value that you provide to a client is going to benchmark that to the industry. And that's going to compare your fiduciary services, your employee education services, financial wellness, fee benchmarking, and investment analysis. So lots of great information. We thank all of you advisors who participate in that survey and look forward for more information to come on these modules in the coming months, and we expect an early 2021 rollout. WellSense. So WellSense is a great tool. Nick had talked about that, and what's really great about WellSense is that it has, from a technological standpoint, about housing everything under one roof. We worked with so many different platforms and portals out there across all the different financial wellness tools, and we wanted to make sure that you had something all in one place. You weren't going portal to portal, so when you provide reporting to your clients, you're able to seamlessly integrate and deliver the results with the investment and benchmarking fiduciary tools that you're using through RPAG. Jamie Hayes and Jeff Scott are going to be sharing more about WellSense very soon in a couple of minutes, and the results that we've had. And you guys, we already have some really, really great case studies. We rolled out in May. Advisors are already doing it and using one-on-one meetings and rolling this out. And especially because it's integrated with virtual meeting technology like Zoom, Teams, and WebEx. Now with this work from home and socially distanced world that we are in and might be in for some time, WellSense is perfectly suited to meet the needs of your clients and their participants. We couldn't have an innovation update without talking about our scorecard. Some really great recent enhancements. IGSA database, what does that mean? Here's what it is. It's CIT's separate accounts. We have now the most robust database for scores for CITs, and it's only going to come in faster and more accurate. We've also been adding some really nice modules based off of our ODA loop feedback. So our peer group analysis goes really nicely and pairs nice with the scorecard and returns within an investment review. Fund family reports through our Advisor Reports business intelligence tool. Expanded fund search and research criteria. And then my favorite new modules that we've rolled out are fund mappings. There's a returns analysis fund mapping to compare a current plan lineup versus a potential plan lineup. There's an expense comparison. So if you're using those CITs that Nick talked about and you want to show what the potential savings could be, with just a few clicks you can create that expense comparison mapping. Or if you're working with a client and you want to show them scenarios of what an efficient share class design would look like, we have that mapping strategy as well. Time-saving tools, big focus of what we do. Automated meeting minute notes, extremely nice, very popular tool that's been heavily utilized by RPAG members. I encourage you to take a look. Enhanced calendaring, enhanced service plans. The service plans are really the chassis of the entire RPAG portal. If you're taking advantage of the service plan and showing, not only is it going to help your how you show your value and tell your clients what and when you're delivering your services, justifying the fees that you can charge. It's also going to drive notifications, tasks, and to-dos across the RPAG portal. It's going to tell you when to schedule a meeting. It's going to tell you when to run a report, and it's going to tell you when to produce the meeting minutes. So take advantage of the service plan, and one of our ASAs can teach that to you in just a couple minutes. Dashboards. Since our last conference, you may have noticed the entire dashboard has changed. No longer is it just the place to come in and do investment due diligence. Now, our dashboards show your entire working life, your activities, upcoming meetings, client service plans, your prospecting, your fees, your revenue, fee benchmarking that you need to accomplish, PAL feeds that you need to accept. Everything is now visible as soon as you log in, and it's dynamic, as well as the Advisor IQ BI dashboards that with one click and get a real top-level 30,000-foot view of your practice. Fantastic, and please take a look at those. Some of you might have noticed some changes to your account, and if you haven't, you'll probably be getting this in the next couple of weeks. But we've been rolling out multi-factor authentication, or MFA, and modern cybersecurity features. Now with WellSense, there's more information stored in RPAG, and we wanted to ensure that we had the highest and best cybersecurity for all of your data. So we're now using a token-based MFA to log in. It might be an inconvenience at first, but most of us use some sort of MFA each and every day, whether it's in our email, our online banking. All of us are used to this by now, and now RPAG offers it as well. Wanted to go past this, but I want to talk a moment about our innovation lab. We have a great consortium of partners that we work with, whether from a technology, a marketing, or an education standpoint, and RPAG will continue to innovate in that way. WellSense and plan fees are part of that, 401k plans, which I mentioned, but also other firms like Larkspur, 5500 search data, partners like Peanut Butter, student loan repayment and resource program, PT Services and Two Dog Social, as well as TRAL, or the Retirement Plan Advisor University, and their designations with the CKP and ARPC, and we have a great discount on those designations. I encourage you to take a look at their virtual booth and get more information there. And Access Point HSA for HSA resources. And we're going to continue to grow this. And I wanted to highlight one of them with Larkspur Data. If you're not taking advantage of the deal that we have with Larkspur with their 5500 search tool, please do so. But we're also working with them on a custom version of their Larkspur Pro tool. And many of you know and have seen their products in the prospecting and marketing and email engagement. And we're working with them to provide better technology there and integrations that would include RPAG scores, other data, as well as a massive discount. And so look out for more information on that in the coming months. So I wanted to leave you just with some final thoughts, right? Our 2020 vision, save you time, house everything under one roof, and give you those unique differentiators. we're going to continue to have that feedback loop with you. So please give us as much feedback as you can through our support channel or with the ASA that you work with each and every day. We're going to continue to build the solutions and innovate and build new solutions, not only enhance what we have, to deliver everything you need to grow your retirement practice. So thank you all very much for coming here this morning and logging on. We really appreciate you. We have record numbers of folks logged in to this event. We're really excited to continue on with this conference and give you the information that you need. I had mentioned WellSense, and coming up right now, I'd like to introduce Jamie Hayes and Jeff Scott. They're both Senior Vice Presidents of NFP, and they're the advisors that innovated and developed WellSense based off of their experience of working with a variety of different tools. And we took their concepts and ideas at RPAG, and over the past 2 years have developed WellSense internally and built a whole new tool that is exclusive to you as an RPAG member. And they're going to be talking about the results and not just the concept of the tool, which we've been talking about a lot in the past year, but they're going to show you how you can continue to grow your business. So Jamie and Jeff, take it away.
Thanks, Jesse. Jeff and I are excited to talk to you all today about our awesome financial wellness program, WellSense. So just a short intro on Jeff and my position. Like you all, we are advisors, we are practitioners, we are in sales, and we're both competitive and want to win new business, retain clients, and cross-sell existing relationships. And WellSense, we have found, that is the solution to all three of those goals. So if you have wealth management component to your practice, WellSense is the fuel that can explode that side of your practice. If you have employee benefits, it's a great referral and revenue growth opportunity. So before we dive into the agenda, just a brief summary of what is WellSense. Nick and Jesse gave great high-level overviews. It's a proactive, outsourced, end-to-end, holistic financial wellness program that includes marketing, customized campaigns, individual wellness assessments, calendaring, action planning, group session content, one-on-one meetings with you, the advisor, participant surveys, and employer reporting, all in one portal. So it's everything you need to sell, implement, and manage this program with your clients and prospects is already built in the RPAG system. So as you see on the agenda, Jeff and I have been, well, you don't see this part, but Jeff and I have been selling and implementing WellSense for over 5 years. And today we're going to discuss the benefits of WellSense to your clients, their employees, and to your bottom line. And we're going to discuss how we have successfully sold WellSense to employer clients of every demographic. So Jeff, let's start off. You want to go through the polling questions and answers that we found from last session?
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. One of the things that Jamie and I wanted to do to kick off the session is we wanted to know who's attending and what your practices look like. So as Jesse had talked about in the intro, there are 3 polling questions that we wanted to ask participants today. The first one is, do you have a formal education program as part of your practice today? As part of that, do you charge for that formal education program? Or is it simply a value add that you tack on to maybe an existing retirement consulting or advisory agreement? And then lastly, because of the insights that you're going to provide for the stakeholders, do you provide or are you involved in group benefits? So we're hoping to get some polling results at some point during this presentation to give us some context to that. It looks like we have them here. So you can see, if you're looking at your screen, that 70% of you say you have some type of formal education program as part of your services. About half of you do group benefits or have some connection with group benefits. And a fewer amount of you, which is what we suspected, don't charge for those services. One of the things we're going to talk about today is how do you start charging for those services and make this a revenue center. But before we do that, I think, Jamie, it's important we talk about maybe the 3 stakeholders that WellSense is a win for. Will you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. So the win for you, for your firm, there's so many, I mentioned earlier, it's a win for employees, it's a win for employers, and self-servingly, it's a win for you all as practitioners to increase your revenue. So just to give some perspective, we had a $4 billion book of business, and we were able to, through implementing WellSense, increase the recurring revenue by $1 million per year. So when you look at, the average practice that you all have, a $500,000 practice, easily bump your recurring revenue by $125,000 through WellSense. I'm going to talk through pricing at the end, but you might be looking at more like $250,000 of recurring revenue when you consider the cross-selling opportunities available as well. So winning more business, this is the differentiator. Jeff's going to talk about how this is different from other financial wellness programs and service providers out there. Increasing retention, this makes the relationship with your client stickier, right? We're getting feedback via client surveys, endorsements, referrals, committee members that leave organizations and go to new organizations will hire us specifically because they want to implement WellSense at their new organization. Again, individual wealth management will just explode because this gives you the opportunity to have more one-on-one meetings with the individuals. And if you do have those employer benefits, it's a direct cross-sell opportunity to other employee benefits. And you have the scale. As a practitioner, the technology and reporting is already built into the RPAG system. So your clients are going to see this as extreme value add from your organization.
So Jamie, in a minute, I want to talk about how you introduce this to existing clients as opposed to prospective clients. But before I do that, I want to reiterate maybe one point too. That would be Jesse talked about how a lot of advisors are trying to get back their time and get operating leverage. WellSense is a great way to also get back time by using this system. And the second point I want to make, I guess maybe on top of that, would be that all of us are trying to not only win new business, we're trying to retain business. And a great way to retain it, historically, I probably in my practice, I always looked at my relationship with the sponsor and perhaps committee members. But when you can go bottom up and work with participants as well, this is a great way to build a relationship with lots of stakeholders at your client, including the employees. It's a great retention effort. So with that, Jamie, tell us how you introduce it to existing clients.
Sure. So like you all, we manage, facilitate, and coordinate each quarterly or semi-annual meeting with all of our clients. And we simply added it to the agenda for discussion with all clients. So I'm not saying that you should do this. I'm just going to tell you what we did. You might want to pick a few to talk about and implement. But I do think it's important that all your clients know that this is something that you have available for them, that it's another arrow in your quiver, because employers are looking for this in the marketplace. They want to implement financial wellness program, and it would be awful if they're looking and you didn't even know and you had it available. So we just added the bullet point. We keep it on the agenda, just like we have investment fiduciary on the agenda every single quarter. We have financial wellness. If they have not implemented WellSense yet, we're talking about it. If they have implemented WellSense, we're giving the update through employer reporting. So we have already the sales stacks. You can use the long sales stack that we'll go through in just a few minutes. You can shorten it. But I do think it is a natural progression of the committee focus. So just like Nick and Jesse mentioned, you guys are all very astute, experienced, and you have done the 3 F's already. Your plans and your client plans are very sophisticated and efficient. You've implemented the fiduciary best practices. The funds are the best. The fees are the lowest. And you've probably implemented plan design to get more employees in the plan, save more, and saving wisely. So the next logical step is really, hey, they're going to be able to save and save wisely because we design the plan effectively and efficient. But guess what? They're still financially stressed, and they're stressed about the now stuff. So it's really getting them to admit that there's a problem here, right? And that Nothing historically has really worked that other service providers have wanted to implement. The needle has not moved. But if the culture of your clients is that where they care about the employees, this is going to be a good fit. So the first thing you want to do is really talk about what are their goals as an organization, right? How does the retirement plan fit within the vision of their organization? Do they want their employees to be financially well, less stressed, more productive, which will lead to improving the bottom line? So understanding the goals of the HR folks on the committee, right, is helping the employees generally. The goals of finance is going to be improving the bottom line and cost. And you need to be prepared to battle common objections before they come up. The 4 biggest are bulleted here, right? They're going to say they don't have the time. The timing's not right. The record keeper does that. Are you going to be selling stuff to our employees? And what is the cost? And I can help you battle those objections before they come up. So the no time, perfect. It's completely outsourced off of their plate. They don't need to worry about it. And one of those, and that's the reason why it hasn't been successful probably in the past, because HR managers don't have the time to manage a program effectively, efficiently. It needs to be outsourced, just like the fiduciary responsibilities are outsourced to you. Record keeper does that, very easy to battle. You look at what have they done in the past. The part of the questions and the fact-finding questions that you're asking in the beginning is, how has that worked for you? How has the needle moved? And then the advisor selling to employees. You talk about that long-term trust and how we need help. Employees need financial help. They need guidance. And when they have established a long-term trusting relationship, the great news is that you are independent and objective and can help the employees without a ulterior motive of proprietary products to sell. The cost, very easy. Actually, Nick Dellavedova went through it already. You can find economies of scale through CIT to offset the cost of WellSense. It can be paid for by the plan. That's the most effective and efficient way. It can be paid for by forfeitures, the ERISA account, and you can show that the cost will be revenue neutral to the plan. And in some circumstances, it might be revenue positive, depending on the efficiencies with the CITs and negotiations that you can implement with the record keeper. And then be prepared to discuss and differentiate WellSense. So with that, Jeff, you've been selling WellSense for over 5 years. Tell us what makes WellSense different and how you talk to your clients and prospects about the differentiators.
Well, I think this is an important conversation. I think to create value with prospective clients, you have to tell a little bit of a different story and also connect with them. And Jamie made this point earlier. With human resource practitioners, their role is to manage human capital and make the workforce better. I think anecdotally, all of them know. I think right now it's important to talk about this current environment as well during a global pandemic. They know that people are hurting financially, maybe not their employees directly, but they may have a spouse or a dependent living in their home, and there are signs of financial stress. And usually when I have a conversation, I like to open up and really dig and ask them a little bit about, what do you know about your employees' financial health? And sometimes I get puzzled looks to, we've talked about doing something formal. We just don't have any tools. So what is WellSense? Here's my elevator pitch on what WellSense is. First, it's an end-to-end solution. And it's there to take the work off the plate of HR professionals. When I say end-to-end, think about everything from start to finish, in between, technology, follow-up, reporting. WellSense is a platform for all our RPAG advisors you can use to deliver value-added financial wellness programs. It starts with being proactive and engaging participants. There are a lot of great statistics on direct emails and the low single-click rates of these programs. We've recognized up front you've got to engage these employees, tell them what WellSense is, why it matters. I think most of us in this call know that rank and file employees can't afford private wealth managers or financial planners for the most part. They normally don't fall on the radar of these individuals. And so bringing this to the workplace, engaging them up front, telling them why it matters works. Next is we also, as part of that, include contests and prizes where we get engagement, because there are some action items we want participants to go into, including the assessment, which is next. At the very beginning of this engagement, we want all employees, not just those potentially we see, to finish a 5-minute financial wellness assessment. And this assessment sets the baseline for the financial health of all the employees. In my experience in the last 5 years, I find most employers really don't know what's going on in the financial lives of their employees. And ironically enough, they sit in committee meetings and they make a lot of decisions about employee benefits and how to best allocate their employee benefit budget. So this assessment gives a baseline, both of where to focus our group education, but also the assessment and the following questionnaire becomes the baseline for that one-on-one consultation. Think about in the past if you've delivered participant services as a retirement plan advisor. You may have limited information and visibility in that participant when they walk in the room or sit on a virtual meeting with you. How would you like to have a financial balance sheet of that participant the minute they walk in the room and have that be populated to the CRM? That's what the assessment does for you as the advisor. It also gives some statistics that most of our clients have never seen before, as we kind of give them an idea of what's going on, again, in the financial lives of the participants. We deliver this, and WellSense is delivered through a mobile app, so we've recognized the value in using a mobile experience, both to manage how the employees complete the assessment, manage their one-on-one meetings, but also any follow-up and action items. Again, by having these assessments done and having this one platform we can go to, it'll coordinate the whole experience, including populating in the CRM a profile of this participant. So as you meet with them in the future, and I'm sure, Jamie, prior to WellSense, you saw this too, is when you see that participant, and you know you've met with them before, and you don't remember what you talked about in the last meeting because there was not a great way to record keep any notes. Well, the WellSense platform provides that. And we've also found that our clients want accountability on what we do with their participants. And the reporting package delivers that accountability in a way they can actually see what's going on in the financial lives of the participants, the impact of that meeting with one of our advisors, and perhaps most importantly, the call to action and action plans that we created with participants, including showing them how we were able to improve behavior. That's where we can create some accountability with the service. Now, I want to talk about how to introduce this now to prospective clients. Jamie talked about how to drip on existing clients. Well, how do you open the door with prospective clients? First of all, you want to articulate that this is truly a differentiator. There are a lot of what I will call financial wellness solutions in the marketplace. And that topic and that nomenclature is a very broad one. And it's good to first define what it is and talk about it from the very beginning of a call with a prospective client. And then as you're responding to even retirement plan consulting and advisory RFPs, I'm always a believer in drip marketing. Tell them about WellSense. The RFP may not include a lot of specific questions about what you do at the worksite, but if it does ask you about participant services, take it as an opportunity to tell them all about WellSense and how it's different than normal retirement education with participants. All right, so start there. Jamie mentioned this earlier. Understand your audience. If you have human resources there and their role is to manage people and human capital, I've generally found in my 20 plus year career that human resource professionals are very paternalistic. They care about people. And WellSense, at the heart of WellSense, is getting employees to develop financial confidence and overcome some of these barriers that really prevent them, Jamie, from making good financial decisions. And we see it, but we don't have any way to measure it. WellSense gives you that platform to measure and prescribe ways so they can have action plans that create better outcomes. And then maybe lastly, and I think that maybe we could have this earlier in the presentation, is what do you start with? A great leading question for me with prospective opportunity is, how do you gauge the financial health of your employees? And what have you done formally to actually do something about it? I find that 95% of the time, even with large employers, they may have a health and wellness program regarding physical, mental, and emotional health, but they've done very little with financial health. Yet, when you have a conversation, they all recognize that they're all intertwined. They recognize that there's a correlation between all those. And with financial stress being the leading cause of stress in the workplace today, most HR professionals recognize they need to play a role in that at the workplace. Now, as a standalone service, this is a little bit of a paradigm shift. Up until about 5 years ago, we were always selling participant education and lightly financial wellness services as part of a more broad retirement planning engagement with the client. It was a check the box, right? Oh, we have a small section where we provide participant services. Well, I think the aha that we've had in the last few years with WellSense is, especially when you look to the marketplace, is that a lot of employers are just fine with the standalone offering. And the beauty of going in with the standalone offering of WellSense is that you don't have to disrupt or displace the current retirement plan advisor. Yet, you will get information as part of the onboarding process on their retirement plan, employee benefits, that will give you great insights on the decisions they've made in the past with their retirement plan advisor. And perhaps more importantly, from a competitive standpoint, understand what services that advisor is providing and how we might be able to help. And one of the feedback pieces that I've received from plan sponsors is that we've always made decisions top down at a committee level. For the first time, you've given me through WellSense bottom-up data that's really given me insights that we didn't know about. And it's actually changing the conversation in committee meetings as they have more data. So again, the data there in and of itself has lots of value for both the sponsors and for you as an advisor as you think about how you can better consult your clients. So with that, Jamie, I would love to maybe have you go through some of the slides. And there's some great slide decks available on RPAG for all of us as advisors. Can you share with us some of those slides and how you position those when you're speaking to a prospective opportunity?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jeff. So as I mentioned before, now that we know the benefits to the employer and to the employee and obvious financial benefits to you, your bottom line, it's simple to bring it up in a meeting with existing clients and prospects, because as I mentioned before, employers want this, they need this, they're looking for it in the marketplace, and RPAG has made it very easy for you. There's an amazing presentation deck for you to use with clients, prospects, or standalone service that you see here. So the very first page of the deck, it's really a leave behind. I don't talk much off it, but it's something that I want to bring up and I want them to refer to later, because it really bullet points all of the differentiating factors that Jeff went through and is really important sort of leave behind. The end-to-end work site advice slide on the next slide really shows the entire evolution of the program. So it's starting with that proactive outreach where that's what's outsourced to us. So we are going to be reaching out to your employees directly. So now I'm talking as I am you selling this. So we're going to be reaching out. We've got all of the campaign, the high tech, mid tech, low tech, and we're going to get 35 to 75% participation in that assessment through COVID. Even through COVID, we've been running assessments for the first time and getting 55, 66% participation in first time wellness assessments. From there, we're going to be able to assess that data. And like Jeff said, we're going to be able to design a thoughtful education program that's going to speak to what your employees say they want to learn more about. We're going to customize those group meetings, the workshops, instead of picking out of a hat on what the topic for our Wellness Wednesday is going to be. And we're going to be hyper-focused on what matters to your employees, followed by meetings with your employees one-on-one. And that's really where we're going to move the needle with the employees. So this slide here really shows that picture where you can talk off every aspect of plan design. But the important parts of this program and the technology is how user-friendly it is. It's intuitive. Everything's on an app. The employee's going to take the questions. It was designed very thoughtfully with behavioral finance in mind. So we pick the right amount of questions so that the employees are not going to give up and just exit the assessment, but they're deep enough and comprehensive enough that we're going to get really good, useful information. And that scheduling the one-on-one session technology is built into the app. So once the employee completes the assessment, the button comes up right there to schedule a meeting with with an advisor. So it's already built into the program and logistically scheduled when you're going to be on site or when you're going to be available via Zoom to meet with an employee one-on-one. They're going to schedule the meeting right there on the app. They're going to get an email reminder and a calendar invite. And the app is a place where the employee and the advisor can stay plugged in to one another so that they can continue to ensure that actions are taken. They're going to get a score. If they are self-service, they're going to be able to go and take some action. Chances are the majority of people are not self-service. They really do need that advisor to sit down with them, wrap their arm around them, and help them to take the right action. And the action is on every component of the financial plan. So you'll see there's a slide, financial planning and topics. And that's where you talk about with the client that it's not just about asset allocation in my 401k. We're going to know that 63% of your employees are worried about credit card debt, or 48% of your employees are worried about children's education. And so that's what we're going to focus on in the group meetings, the work site meetings, and the one-on-one meetings with the advisors. So the other great thing about this program is the employer reporting, which you see in the personal finance trends. This is a huge topic for the cross-selling opportunities where you can talk to the employer about the programs that they have internally, and maybe there's opportunities to cross-sell the medical plans, medical billing. They're going to have a better understanding of what's important to their employees and design programs effectively.
Hey, Jamie, Jeff, we have to wrap up and move on. So any final thoughts on WellSense?
Just the very last slide for next steps. If you have questions or want to learn more about it, you can contact David Gantz, and he can walk you through the technology and the pricing. And if you have any other questions, he can lead you to myself or to Jeff.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Jeff. Great updates on WellSense, really great actions. We'll continue to do monthly webinars on the results. And also, if you're a current WellSense subscriber, make sure that you're doing the onboarding and the ongoing study groups that we're doing on how to roll that out to learn those best practices. So thank you very much.
Thank you to our friends from RPAG, and thank you to each and every one of you for joining us today. Clearly, we are still in a very challenging environment. And I'd like to start with just a couple of things. First, I hope that each of you and all of those you care about remain safe and well through this period. Secondly, thank you for continuing to partner with us. We are definitely still open for business. Now, we know we will get through this, that is for sure, but we believe we will get through this better together. Now, as we look back at our industry, we've never really had to extend ourselves as we do today in this virtual environment, but clearly extending ourselves virtually has become increasingly important, and we believe it's no longer just good for business. We believe it is now a matter of survival. What I'm about to share, though, is not revolutionary. Ladies and gentlemen, we have not sequenced DNA. As a matter of fact, at some point you may say, Jonathan, that is common sense. And while I would agree with you, I've sat in on so many bad virtual meetings, as I'm sure you have, that I've come to believe that what seems commonsensical is so rare when it comes to quality virtual meetings that it should be considered a superpower. So to be clear, we know you know how to do this. Our goal today, though, is to share some thoughts, some ideas, some specific takeaways for you to help you each get just a little bit better. Now, this is the face of disruption. This is what we're all faced with, and our industry is facing disruption on many levels, as is every industry virtually across the globe. But we can add basic client communication to the list of things requiring adaptability. Now, we believe we're going to find ourselves having to relate to clients virtually for quite some time. I would suggest the ripple effect of this pandemic will be felt for all of us throughout the rest of our careers, which means we're all going to be doing more and more virtual meetings. Now, as I think about this, all this talk of disruption and pondering what the future could be like has me looking back. And there's a quote I'd like to share that's obviously very old from the great amateur philosopher Yogi Berra, and of course, a legendary catcher from the Yankees. Several decades ago, he shared, "The future ain't what it used to be." Man, you got to love that guy. He had such an uncommon way of expressing common sense. And in the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic, it's never been more true. Who could have imagined how quickly, how profoundly the world could change in just a few short weeks or months? This crisis, unlike most of them in our history, has affected not only our wealth, but also our health. And it's disrupted so many aspects of life. That's why the future ain't what it used to be. Now, here's something else we've lost, at least temporarily, and that's the gold standard for human relationships. The gold standard of human relationships, face-to-face conversations, has become problematic, at least for the time being, and nothing will replace the quality, the standard of face-to-face interactions. We've had the advantage of connecting with our clients, with our prospects in person virtually for our whole careers. And as we think about that, it allowed us to communicate with them and build deeper relationships in large part because of nonverbal communication. I'm told that some 80+% of communication happens nonverbally, much easier to pick up in person than it is in this virtual on-screen environment. And you, like many of your colleagues, probably developed a great skill set around nonverbal communications, reading the room, reading the client or prospect. And that in part has been what has made you successful. But as you think about this in this environment, it is so much more challenging to read nonverbal cues in this virtual engagement. So as I think about that, we find ourselves having to adapt and continue to work in this environment. The real question becomes, how do we do so successfully and, dare I say, even thrive throughout this environment? As tough as it is for me to admit, probably as tough as it is for many of you to admit, the short answer is more virtual meetings. Now, to be clear, more successful virtual meetings. We're all very familiar with the phrase Zoom fatigue. I don't know why Zoom was picked on, but virtual meeting fatigue. Being on camera all day long is challenging for many of us, for some of our clients as well. So the key is not necessarily just more virtual meetings, but rather better virtual meetings. I think if we had better virtual meetings, less bad ones, we would probably be less fatigued. But we should be mindful and thoughtful about not always being on camera, right? If we don't need to be, let's save that. And many people are referring to this shockingly new way of doing business as the new normal. Respectfully, I push back on that. Perhaps a better phrase would be the new abnormal. Now, we've all been doing a lot of virtual meetings at Capital Group American Funds. We've been doing a ton of virtual meetings with you and your colleagues across the country. Our meeting count is up 20, 30% in some places with advisors like you. Our meeting count with third-party administrators up dramatically. That's no surprise. What has been surprising to me is the huge uptick we've seen over the last couple of months in plan sponsor engagements, in plan participant engagements. And we're seeing, obviously, most of the finals now are happening in virtual environments, but client education meetings, participant education meetings are happening with greater regularity. And quite candidly, some of the best meetings we're having are with the participants seemingly more willing to engage in this virtual environment than they were when they were in the lunchroom. So there are some upticks to this, which has been good. Now, as I think about this, we also have a lot of education meetings for the plan sponsors, right? We all did it around the CARES Acts and things like that. And they're starting to become more and more comfortable with it and actually requesting it. So good news is we're seeing huge adoption rates by the plan sponsors and participants out there. Now, this, for example, is not only your new office, but for many of us, it's our new virtual studio for these events. Unlike your old office, the one perhaps collecting dust now, conducting business meetings here is often with our personal life, our family in close proximity. Now, my wife might suggest too close of proximity, but your business contacts in this setting almost become like guests in your home. And we're faced with the challenge of ensuring deep client engagement, perhaps building new relationships with prospects turning into clients, and projecting our brand in this new virtual reality. How can we foster that brand? How can we deepen relationships? How can we build relationships? How can we communicate effectively? We're all using virtual meetings, so it's got to be more than that, right? We've all seen the difference between the good ones and I'll just say the bad ones, right? And as I think about this, nobody wants to host a bad virtual meeting. Nobody wants to do that, but we've all seen a bunch of them. So for clarity's sake, let me just say there are three types of broad brushstroke, three types of virtual engagements. The first is the personal conversation where your kids, your pets, even distractions are part of the show. Think of FaceTime, right? FaceTime is a wonderful example of how to use personal communications over the virtual or camera-ready environment. The second type is the business conversation. This is where meetings, oftentimes maybe less formal, less professional meetings, but still professional meetings nonetheless. And I recognize that many of us take our business relationships and the lines blur and they become friends. And, so a little bit of distraction may be part of the show as well, and it's okay. But that's not where we're focusing our time. It's really the third type of engagement, the business presentation. Think here a retirement plan finals where you're trying to close the client, where the decision makers may very well be working remotely. And even in your wealth management business, it's a big presentation or a new prospect. The stakes are higher here. That's where we're going to focus our attention today. Clearly, everything we share can be used to make better engagements for the business conversation or the personal conversation. To be fair, most of us are on a steep learning curve to make our virtual events more professional, more impactful, and it's true of our competition as well. So as we think about that, the next finals presentation may very well be won or lost based on the virtual experience, not necessarily the merits of the product or services being offered, not necessarily the experience of you and your team. So it's incredibly important that we get this right. Now, if you're wondering what exactly can you do to upgrade the virtual experience, you've come to the right place, because that's exactly what we're going to talk about for the remainder of our time today. And the question we asked ourselves is, how can we share with you a series of best practices in a way that not only will be engaging through this virtual environment, but also engaging after this virtual environment? And the simple answer is with checklists. Now, it may sound too simple to be true, but the reality is checklists are incredibly powerful tools. And for those of you looking for a great read, in 2009, Surgeon Atul Gawande wrote a book entitled The Checklist Manifesto, a wonderful book. Now, that book primarily focused on the aviation industry, the medical industry, and the incredible power, the life-saving power that checklists could bring to those industries. And while it's certainly life-saving in those industries, not necessarily in ours, that doesn't mean checklists aren't powerful. We believe they're incredibly powerful tools, and we're going to use them. Now, as I think about this, what we propose is actually using a checklist for more successful virtual meetings. Now, to be clear, it's technically 4 checklists for more successful virtual meetings. Now, the first checklist involves the telecommunications medium itself, the digital checklist. This is how we communicate over the electronic medium. The visual, the audio, the actual program elements of the digital experience should be the first thing we pay attention to. Now, we've all attended those virtual events where technology didn't go well. Those are not good experiences. They're painful for us as the presenters, but worse than that, they're painful for our audience, and it's all about them after all. To prevent such glitches, we suggest you have to master your technology. You have to be very familiar with the program you're using, how to turn mutes on and off, how to make sure if something goes wrong, how to troubleshoot it, right? So becoming a master of the technology is incredibly important. Now, part of that is, of course, to make sure you have the latest hardware. You have to have high quality video, high quality audio to make that better impression. And lest I forget, let's make sure we have adequate bandwidth, right? Because we're all vying for the same bandwidth in our houses. So it's important that we may have to upgrade our bandwidth to get a higher quality video resolution. Now, in addition to that, it involves practice. This is the biggest mistake we see most people make, is a lack of practice. We just get up and say, oh, I talk about this stuff all the time. I'll be fine, no issues, I can wing it. Ladies and gentlemen, respectfully, we suggest you don't wing it. We suggest you practice, practice, practice. We actually suggest you do dry runs to walk through it. Now, what can you do in terms of upgrading your technology? To be clear, we recognize what follows is a balancing act. You could literally spend tens of thousands of dollars upgrading to build that home office studio, if you will, but that's not what we're suggesting. So here are some easy tech upgrades that we suggest that make a noticeable difference. And they're just some suggestions. We do have to be flexible because from time to time you have to use other people's platforms and they may not use some of the tools we're going to suggest. But first and foremost, we suggest decoupling your audio and video. As opposed to using just your computer for the audio and video, have a separate phone for the audio. Now, the advantage of that should be pretty commonsensical, but let's just say, hypothetically, my computer goes down. If my computer goes down, I'm still connected via the phone. I'm still able to participate in the meeting and help folks navigate, right? Because we'll talk about a contingency plan in a few minutes with our teammates. But we want to make sure that we're not completely dropped off the call and lost to the call. And then everyone's fumbling trying to figure out what to do. So decouple your audio and video. Secondly, we suggest having a high quality microphone. You'll notice I'm using a headset with a boom microphone, markedly better than using the built-in microphone from your laptop. Now, the advantage of this is really twofold. Typically, microphones you see in laptops or speaker phones, as an example, are omnidirectional. They pick up a lot of background noise. With a microphone that's built into a boom, as it is here, it allows you to place it right in front of your mouth, which improves the sound quality. But in addition to that, it's a different type of microphone. It's typically a unidirectional microphone faced at my mouth, purposefully designed to minimize background noise. Now, the second thing we suggest is actually having a portable backdrop. Now, backdrops serve two purposes. First and foremost, they're to minimize distractions. So you're not looking over my shoulder wondering, what the heck is that on Jonathan's shelf? And is that really a record player? Is he really that old? Whatever it may be, right? To minimize distractions is first and foremost what we're trying to do with the portable backdrop. The second thing is it gives us the opportunity for that more professional and, dare I say, branded opportunity. You'll notice here, as we're not live in front of you, I was able to get one of the backdrops we use for our booths at conferences. And you'll notice this is a real background as opposed to the virtual background. So just to comment on virtual backgrounds, I remind you, they are quite fun and some of them are hilarious. But ladies and gentlemen, the first and primary focus of a background is to minimize distractions. These digital backgrounds, the technology is not quite there because if you move too much, you could lose a hand in the background. You could lose your head in the background. I've seen people lose their hair in the background. So that can be quite distracting. So to avoid that, we actually suggest real live backdrops. And then finally, an external webcam. Again, like the microphone built into your laptop, the webcam in your laptop is fine for a day-to-day use, but for a high-quality professional meeting, we suggest a dedicated webcam. Now, typically, the image quality is better, but more than that, it gives you the opportunity to put it on a tripod, as mine is, and get it at eye level, which will become readily apparent why that's so important in just a few minutes. But the short answer is it allows you the opportunity to create eye contact, right? I'm looking directly at the audience, and eye contact is more important in this environment, this virtual environment, than it is in in-person meetings. So it's incredibly important we get this right. Now, by the way, before I forget, if you are using a headset or headphones, perhaps AirPods if you're using your Apple phones, what I might suggest is make sure, please, please, please remember to have your devices charged. We've had instances where people were talking for 30, 60, 90 seconds and they didn't realize their headset had died. So just remember to completely charge your devices prior to the event. It'll make life much, much better. Now, the second checklist is the physical checklist. This is the environment your clients will actually see. And here's some pointers. First and foremost, you got to analyze your environment. Now, what matters here is that it not be you. No offense, but you need somebody else to look at it through the lens of the audience. So set up that dry run, have somebody dial into the experience and tell you exactly what they see. And what I would suggest is find somebody with a critical eye, someone that'll point something out and say, that's not straight, as opposed to your friend that says, oh, that looks great. Right? You need something a little bit more. Analyze the environment. Don't just look at it, analyze it. Use that critical eye. Now, in addition to that, you want to manage distractions, right? So this is incredibly important. One of the biggest things you can do to create a greater likelihood for success is to minimize distractions for you and the audience. So not just what they see, but what you see. Make sure you're not overly distracted. I was on a call just a few weeks ago and the presenter had their cell phone on the desk in front of them. Now, it didn't ring, but it was clearly vibrating and they kept looking down at it. So not only was it a distraction to us, the audience, but it was clearly a distraction for the presenter as well. So if you're not using your cell phone for the call, I would encourage you put it away, put it on airplane mode so it's not a distraction for you. And what about your family, your kids? We talked about it. We're working in this environment now. We all are working from home, and that comes with it unique challenges. So what I might suggest is maybe if it's really important, go the extra step ask them to take a walk, right? This may be a great time. I have this presentation this afternoon. Can you schedule your walk around that? Now, that does a couple things. First of all, it minimizes the likelihood they're going to walk in the middle of your big meeting. But in addition to that, it also creates a greater likelihood they're not using your Wi-Fi. So you're not competing for that bandwidth. Create a greater likelihood for success there. Manage distractions. I shouldn't have to say this, but food, now is not the time to have food in front of you. I believe it or not, I've seen people eating while they're presenting, which just cracked me up. And then consider a sound and video check. Now, what matters here is you do it in advance. It always drives me insane, and I recognize I'm a little particular. But when people are on stage and they're testing the microphone, is this thing on? Can you folks hear me? Respectfully, we should do that before the audience ever signs in. We did that today to make sure everything was up and running, so you didn't have to worry about what we were doing on the back end or the front end with technology, right? What we're ultimately trying to do here is curate an atmosphere that your clients will appreciate, right? Your home office should have that warm, welcoming, professional, inviting atmosphere, and that's what we're looking for. So the first thing we would suggest is declutter your office. We've seen this time and time again. Most of us had home offices one way or another, but we didn't really design it to be in every day. So it didn't really matter. We certainly didn't design it to be a virtual studio. So first and foremost, declutter. Secondly is lighting. Just like in photography, videography, right? These virtual meetings requires good lighting. Lighting, it's incredibly important, should come from behind the camera, not behind the subject, not behind you, but behind the camera. I have a natural light window right behind the camera. That's great, but at certain times of the day, depending on the weather and cloud cover, it may not be enough. So we encourage you to actually have a separate light. I have a little studio light here, but you don't need a fancy light. You can go to any local store and pick up a $10 LED light just to minimize the likelihood of shadows, which could again be a distraction. Now, and then this final idea is this idea of virtual hygiene. There are a couple of thoughts here. First and foremost is your dress. For those of you that have been coming to the RPAG conferences, you've probably never seen me without a suit and tie on. The world has changed a little bit. And in this environment, it might be awkward for me to be in a suit and tie. Rather than be in a suit and tie, think about what you're going to wear. Match the hatch, so to speak. Make sure it's appropriate for the audience and the event you're trying to host. Given that when you're doing it with teammates, make sure and talk about that so everybody is dressed similarly. Now, in addition to dress, there are other thoughts on virtual hygiene. Just remember, you're always on camera. I shouldn't have to say that, but all you have to do is Google that. You'll have all sorts of fun watching these failures where people forget they're on camera. And think about muting. Not only knowing how to mute others, but know how to mute yourself. I have 3 mute options. I have a mute option on my headset, I have a mute option on the application, and of course, I have a mute option on my phone. I see this happen time and time again where people hit multiple mute buttons. Then when it's time for them to talk, it takes them a minute to come off of mute because they couldn't remember which mute button they had. I suggest find one and only use one, right? The one on my phone is always in the same spot. Depending on the app I'm using, the mute button's in different spots. I happen to use the one that's always in my phone just to make sure you can't hear me when I don't want you to hear me, and you can hear me when I need you to hear me. Now, the meeting itself is another checklist. You want to remember to treat this just like if it were an in-person event, right? Approach the virtual meeting as if it were in person. Do the same type of planning, and just like any meeting, what comes first? The audience. Do your audience analysis. Who are they? What do we know about them? What do we want them to take away from this event? Build your agenda around that. Given that intelligence, you know about them, what you want them to take away, build your agenda around that. Think in terms of what, so what, now what could be a simple agenda, right? Now, you want to have a strong title. We're going to come back to that in a little bit, but think about engaging your audience before they ever show up, right? What can you do to get them there? And again, we'll spend some more time on that. Now, the meeting itself, the second thing we encourage you to do is own the content. Now, I'm going to tell you, I don't know how many meetings you sat in where it looks like people are looking at the slides, the presenters are looking at the slides with the audience for the first time. That's just awful. It's awful. Please, please, please don't do that, right? Own the content. I'll give you an example. When CARES Act came out, we were not the first ones to come out with a CARES Act presentation. I don't think we were the second or third ones to come out with a CARES Act presentation. So I sat in on some of our contemporaries to see what they had to say about the CARES Act. And I was mortified by some of them because it was apparent they were looking at the slides for the first time in front of a live audience. There is nothing wrong with not knowing the content. But if you don't know the content, respectfully, have someone else share it. It has never been easier to airdrop in a professional than it is today, right? Nobody has to fly in. You don't have to pay for lodging. You can airdrop experts in. It's never been easier. So please, please, please own the content or bring someone in that can. And then the flicker factor. This comes to us from our friends in the media. Flicker factor is all about the attention, the number of times the screen changes, how often you advance slides, color changes, eye contact, vocal inflections. All of these things make a difference. Having different speakers can make a difference. The key here is we want to engage the audience and keep them engaged. And the news does a great job of this, right? They're constantly going back and forth, news, weather, sports. Think about that for your presentation. How can you mix it up to maintain audience engagement? Now, before I leave the event itself, please, please, please remember to end your event. Back to Zoom failures, we see what happens when people forget to end their event. They hang up, they dialed in, they had a separate phone call, they hang up, you can't hear them anymore, but they're still on camera and we can see them. So remember that. Now, we can't leave the meeting itself without talking about teamwork. Teamwork is incredibly important in any profession. Ours is no exception. And in this world, I would suggest virtual leverage today, if I can paraphrase General Colin Powell, is a force multiplier. Having the ability to bring multiple sources to one call, one experience with a client can be huge. I go back to Zoom fatigue, virtual fatigue. Many of our clients are suffering the same thing. So what can we do to create a greater likelihood that they're going to attend the event and enjoy the event? Consider partnering up. If you're doing something with us at Capital Group American Funds, rather than have two separate meetings, bring us in, right? So think about that. If you're using a third-party administrator, bring them in. Have one experience as opposed to multiple experiences for the clients. It creates a greater likelihood they attend, and it also reduces the likelihood of virtual fatigue. But if you're going to do this, you got to plan it, right? Everybody has to know their role and responsibility, what they're doing, when they're doing it, and have a contingency plan. Make sure you can back each other up. If I go down, my video goes down, you know, you have the slides, you're able to go forward, you're able to move on. But it's important to enforce, and this is a strong word I recognize, but enforce mandatory practice sessions, right? Those dry runs are incredibly important, especially in this environment. Stuff goes wrong. We all know that. This technology, some of it's still relatively new and it's finicky at times. So require mandatory practice sessions by all presenters and panelists you're going to have, right? That will make the teamwork experience go much better. Now, the final checklist is the promotion checklist. This is all about letting people know about your event and enticing them to attend, and to some extent, following up with them afterwards. Now, here's some simple ideas. First and foremost, you got to have a good invitation. You got to get their attention and get them there. We suggest attaching an agenda. If you have an agenda, attach that, any files you might want them to look at in advance. And consider using a registration confirmation so they know they're registered. Make it easy for them. Now, in the invitation, I told you we were going to come back to this. The title and description is incredibly important. Now, in building this presentation, my colleagues and myself, we sat in and it must have been a dozen or 15 different virtual meeting best practices sessions from around the industry and others. And as we sat in on them, I would guess over half of them had the same title or something very similar: virtual meeting best practices. Did I know what it was? You betcha. Very simple, very to the point, but it wasn't that compelling. We need compelling titles. So we were very thoughtful. We took some time. Leading from the Laptop is the title of our presentation: the art and science of successful virtual meetings. Why leading from the laptop? In my 30 years in this industry, it's rare that we get an opportunity to leave an indelible mark with our clients. Certainly 2001 was one of them, 2008 and 9 was another. And I would say this is another one of those rare opportunities where we can leave an indelible mark with our clients, but we're not doing it face to face. We're literally leading them from our laptops. Secondly, the art and science, it's not just about art or science. It's the combination of both of those things that create a greater likelihood for successful virtual meetings. Not just virtual meetings, we want successful virtual meetings. So hopefully in some small way that enticed you to attend this session as opposed to one of the other ones, right? Now, as we mentioned earlier, it's hard to get and keep people's attention. So for big events, we use our social media. Of course, we use LinkedIn. Now, for local events, we can't necessarily do that, but the takeaway here is all about getting the audience's attention or prospective audience's attention. So what we would suggest here is just remember that some 50+% of all email is junk or spam email. So if they're not going to read our email, and there's a chance they won't, how can we get their attention? I just suggest pick up the phone and call them. just pick up the phone and call them. If you want them to be there, pick up the phone and call them. It can be a huge help. Now, if you have the ability to use social media, certainly use that. Now, remember the 15-minute rule, right? What's the 15-minute rule? To increase attendance, we suggest sending out a reminder 15 minutes prior to the event. It pops up on their email. There's a link to the event directly in the email. Makes it very simple. They don't have to look at their calendar. They don't have to go to their calendars, click on the event, scroll down to the, it's right in the reminder email. That will create a greater likelihood for success in getting people to attend the event. So let's say you've just hosted an event, you had an incredibly successful event, you used our checklist, congratulations, but we can't forget what we want our audience to actually do, which reminds us to use end of event surveys. Did they get from it what we hoped they would get? If not, for our next one, it gives us the ability to edit it, to modify it just a little bit. Resource slides, you share a lot of information, condense it all on one slide so they know where they can get more information on some of the topics you talked about. If you have the ability and your program allows it, auto-generated emails can make a meaningful difference and allow people to get that thank you right away, and it doesn't appear on your to-do list as something to do tomorrow. It's auto-generated, it goes out right away. And then consider planting a seed for your next event, right? Leave the audience interested in what you have coming up next. Now, we've covered a lot of ground, so let's wrap up. And in the spirit of checklist, here's a master checklist of what we covered today. First, your takeaways, right? The digital experience. Did you have the right equipment? The physical checklist. Is your audience seeing what you want them to see? Is it professional? Is it inviting? The meeting checklist. Are you focused on and prepared to have meaningful and purposeful impact with the audience, given that audience in particular? And then finally, the promotion checklist. Are you selling your meeting in advance? Are you following up with them afterwards? Now, finally, I mentioned earlier the value of a critical eye, the value of a second opinion, if you will, the dry run. Here's something we can offer for you. As an action item, we offer this to you as a consultation, a personalized virtual consultation, if you will, a second opinion service. Think of it as a way to benchmark your virtual meetings. Now, here's how it would work. You would reach out to us. You would let us know you're interested. We would schedule a mutually workable time. You would send us an invite. We would have the event just like it were a real virtual event. We would give you thoughts on your invitation process, on your title, how your background looks, all of that kind of stuff if you're interested. And the whole process could take as little as 15 minutes. We've had several of these last much longer and be much more involved, but it could take as little as 15 minutes. Now, I talked to you about a resource slide for more information on what you could use for content for your virtual meetings. Clearly, we have a lot of content at Capital Group American Funds. We have several of our microsites available to you, several resources available to you, and we just ask you reach out to us and let us know what we can do to be of service. Now, let me land this plane. We appreciate you joining us today, and we want you to know that while we happen to be physically separated, you are not alone. We are all in this together, and we will get through this better together. Now, I started with some wisdom from Yogi. The future ain't what it used to be. Let me finish with some wisdom from President Abraham Lincoln. The best way to predict the future is to create it. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope in some small way we've done just that, help you create a better future, a brighter future in this new virtual reality. Stay safe and remember to wash your hands.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Glad to be here with you all virtually in the first ever RPAG virtual conference. My name is Chris Johnson. I'm part of Empower's Consultant Relations team, and I'll be part of our group today that'll be hosting this breakout session. So excited to be one of the first groups hosting you here in our kickoff of these breakouts this morning. Excited about our content to cover with you here today over the next 40 to 45 minutes. We'll begin with a quick introduction. I'll introduce you to Carol Waddell, who will join us. Carol leads our Retirement Solutions Group, Senior Vice President of Empower's Retirement Solutions Group, responsible for our advice that we deliver to participants. Carol will spend the first few minutes really talking about an overview of our unique customer service model and truly the value of advice. And then you'll hear from Nick Delavedova and Joe Smolin, who co-moderated a session we did and recorded back in June along with a broader Empower and RPAG team to really talk about some of the values of our new advice solutions, how we use the exclusive RPAG advice solutions to help clients. We're excited to be launching this partnership with a lot of great tools to help support your practice. You'll hear more about the value of advice, how to utilize advisor managed accounts today, an overview of the program. You'll also hear from Brian Cosmano, who will lead a discussion on a paper we had written over a year ago, a white paper on the value of managed accounts. So we're really excited. We know the value of advice is critical, particularly in the last few months in the marketplace. We've really seen an emphasis with clients trying to better understand how to deliver advice at a participant level. This is a great way to be able to provide some value to clients. We hope you enjoy and get a lot out of today's session. We look forward to interacting with you in this group over the next 45 minutes. So with that, I will turn it over to Carol Waddell.
Hi, my name is Carol Waddell, and I'm responsible for leading the team that supports guidance, advice, financial wellness, and financial planning engagements with participants. Empower has a very unique customer service model for its call centers. We've bifurcated the call center into two groups to better serve participants. We have a customer care center that is focused on responding quickly and accurately to support key participant-directed transactions. Their focus is flawless one-call resolution, and they deliver on that commitment. We also have the Retirement Solutions Group that is focused on helping customers achieve retirement security and financial freedom. These conversations are more consultative and advisory in nature and often are significantly longer and involve the participant's spouse or partner. Bottom line, Empower believes in the power of advice and remains committed to acting in the best interest of its participants. We know that participants that receive advice perform better than those that do not on many dimensions. Consequently, we offer a full range of advisory solutions that can help participants on a number of topics: investing in a plan, saving for retirement or other goals like college, paying off debt, credit card debt, student debt, ensuring participants have enough basic insurance to cover themselves and their family members, withdrawing money in a tax-efficient manner, understanding how and when to take Social Security, helping participants initiate and maintain an income stream in retirement, the money that they've worked so hard to create. Those are just a few examples of the breadth of advisory solutions available through Empower. We are excited to announce that we have been further investing in our Best Interest Advice program to align with the SEC's new Regulation Best Interest, or Reg BI for short. Through this program, Empower will continue to provide point-in-time fiduciary advice to participants at no additional cost to the individual or the plan. We've been acting as a fiduciary for years. Roughly 99% of our corporate plan sponsors take advantage of this service. With the new SEC regulations, we're using this as an opportunity to further expand the scope of advice we provide to the government and public sector market too. Clearly, there are a lot of ways we can help participants through the call center or in the field. We recognize you may not want to leverage all these services, and that's why we're going to work with you or your plan advisor to tailor them to meet the needs of your plan goals and your organizational preferences. I hope I can meet with you soon to discuss these unique aspects of the Empower program and the outcomes you may expect to achieve. Thanks for your time.
Good day again. This is Nick Della Vedova, President of Retirement Plan Advisory Group, and we're really excited for the webinar that we have on display with Empower. As you know, Empower is one of the largest record keepers in the industry, but what is exciting to me about Empower is not only they're one of the largest, they're frankly one of the most innovative. And not just innovative for their own purpose, but innovative in capturing the advisor as well. So when Empower builds solutions, they have first and foremost the advisor in mind. And a lot of the things that we're going to talk about is going to really show that Empower is such an advisor-focused record keeper. As a part of that also, as you know, we built quite a few custom solutions with Empower over the last a couple years, which includes the My Retirement Path series, both index and hybrid. It also includes the managed accounts, and then as well as the My Fiduciary Path 338 solution. So we've rolled up our sleeves with Empower to create what we consider as unfair competitive advantages for you in the marketplace. And we wanted to share more detail on those unfair competitive advantages over the next few minutes as it relates to what we're doing together and what Empower can bring to your organization and to your practice. Starting off today will be Joe Smolin, who is Senior Vice President of Core Markets. Joe's been with Empower for over 20 years, as well as been instrumental in creating these unique advantages for you and your clients. Because at the end of the day, Empower cares about the end user, the participant experience as much as we do. And that's why it's also such a great fit. So with that, Joe, with no further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you to share more about what we've done together. Thank you.
Excellent, Nick. Thank you. Thanks for the support, the trust, and the partnership. Means a great deal to me and all of the associates at Empower. So as Nick said, my name's Joe Smolin. I lead our efforts in the core market. That makes me responsible for new business as the national sales manager, but also for customer retention and satisfaction. So I handle the whole gamut in the core market. So now it is my pleasure to introduce the speakers today. Jonathan Coombs, the investment analyst at RPAG, is going to speak. Jeff Keeling, Director of Investment Research at RPAG. Brian Cosmano, the Chief Innovation Officer at Empower Retirement. And Annette Van Horn, the Segment Manager at Advisor Managed Accounts at Advised Assets Group. That is a mouthful of an introduction. So I'm going to cover just a few slides here and set the stage for the partnership that we have with RPAG. First and foremost, I think everyone knows, but if you don't, let me reiterate, advice matters. And advice is core and centric to everything that we do here at Empower. What you see in front of you is a pictorial depiction of the lifetime income score, which is fundamental to what we have at Empower around retirement readiness. And as you can see, the lifetime income score at 58 with no advisor, and that doubles when our participants are engaged with an advisor. So core and centric to everything we do is advice, and it's built into our entire experience for both plan sponsors and plan participants. Now let's take you through a quick journey map on how we've gotten to where we are with advisor managed accounts. First, we believe that we are the most advisor-centric provider in the business, and we are dedicated to our advisor partners. Part of that, as Nick mentioned in the introduction, is our commitment to creating custom solutions to be a partner of our advisors. So we started this journey with 4 partners back in January of 2019. We are proud to say that we've reached over $4 billion in assets in the product already. So with our advisor partners, we've seen extreme success. 34% of those plans that are utilizing advisor managed accounts are doing so through our dynamic retirement manager. That's a dynamic QDIA option where we have utilization of target date funds while participants are younger, and then at a trigger age, they move into a managed account solution. And that's part of that $4 billion. We are now live in full disclosure with 9 firms. We have customized this approach with 9 firms. And the solution that we're rolling out today with RPAG has us with what I wanted to mention as super important. It is really the most aligned solution to a proprietary solution that we've created. So my sales team has enhanced compensation when selling this partner solution, as well as full pricing credits, as if it was manufactured by Empower ourselves. Next, let's talk about roles and responsibilities. At the end of the day, this particular product is RPAG's product. This is not an Empower product. Empower is a sub-advisor to your product. So now the 4 major roles that you'll see us playing: Empower is the record keeper, we're the call center, we're the participant and plan sponsor technology hosts. We're handling those types of things. RPAG, at the end of the day, is the fiduciary. They're the creator of the portfolios and sets the price that is being consumed by plan sponsors and participants. Advised Assets Group is our registered investment advisory firm, and we still utilize Morningstar. So Morningstar is still in the picture. They're the engine behind the scenes using their human and financial capital model, as well as the creation of the asset allocation behind the scenes. And then lastly is the role of the financial advisor. The financial advisor's role is true distribution of the product and the services, and that can be done several different ways, whether offering managed accounts or advisor managed accounts, utilizing our dynamic retirement manager, or fully mapping over. The next slide talks about some of the results. I would argue that there's been no better time in the history of the industry, now that history is only 21 years for me, than right now to validate the need for financial advisors and financial advice. So extreme market volatility conditions cause people to need and desire financial advice. And is it working? Yes, we truly believe it's working. We have over $45 billion in advice tools today. And in the month of March alone, we saw 176,000 calls into our financial advice call center. Only 0.3% or 1/3 of 1% made a change. If you contrast that to the folks that are calling our general call center and are not involved in our advice suite of services, they were 9 times more in making changes, or 2.6% made changes. Yes, our talk times are up, and yes, we received more phone calls, but what we found is they stayed the course and they wanted validation of the advice tools that they were in. Now, what's the value proposition of advice and why advice matters? First, this is not just an expensive asset allocation tool. By any means, that's not what this is. The number one impact that a participant can have on their retirement outcome is increasing their savings rate. And those that are in our advice suite of services have increased 50%. That is a pretty remarkable statistic. The second is mitigating bad behavior or staying the course. And we've seen 48% less variation in returns for those participants that are utilizing our advice suite of services. Lastly, it is a personalized portfolio allocation, so don't think of it as a generic tool. My last slide before I turn it over to Brian Cosmano is truly addressing the 4 aspects of the value proposition. So first, it is personalized asset allocations. It is a customized solution. We do give savings rate recommendations, so a lot of times participants don't know how much they need to save, and we will do that for them. We also give spend down or withdrawal strategies for the most tax advantageous way to handle their money. And then last is Social Security optimization. Those 4 pillars make up the overall value proposition. Last piece of this is it's truly fully integrated into the Empower experience. So you'll see it in and through the entire participant experience at Empower. We are aligned with you. We are not competing with you. We are on the same side of the fence, and we are super excited about rolling this out. So that concludes my portion of the speaking time today. I am now going to turn it over to Brian Cosmano.
Thanks, Joe. One of the most common things when we start discussing advice solutions that we like to educate our advisors and plan sponsors on is where the value of advice really is. And that's why we wrote the paper, the white paper that you have available to you in your resources, Made to Measure, Estimating the Value of a Retirement Managed Account. And usually when you have conversations about the value of an investment product, you start with returns. But given that managed accounts is an investment solution, our paper starts with a conversation as to why perhaps looking at only returns may not be the ideal benchmark for figuring out if the value of an advice solution is worth the fee. And the reason that we believe that is because if you think of, let's just say, 2 target date funds that you may have in different plans, let's say one is more aggressive and one is more conservative. Without knowing anything else about those funds, most people can probably guess that the more aggressive one over the last 10 years has outperformed and the more conservative one has underperformed. And hopefully, as advisors for those plans, you wouldn't say, oh, well, then I must have done a bad job for the plan that has a more conservative target date. You probably did an assessment of the plan, figured out that a more conservative target date glide path was appropriate, and then chose that target date for the plan. Well, if you think about that relative to a managed account, a feature of managed accounts is it gets people into the right risk level. And when people are well funded for retirement, so think of someone coming into March of this year, they've done a really good job saving, they have a lot of money invested in the market, they don't need to take more risk. Well, if you have a lot of participants in the plan that are in managed accounts, those people are going to be invested more conservatively, all else equal. And if you look at the returns over the last 10 years, they may not be as good as the target date fund, but we would say that's a good thing. That's a feature of a managed accounts. Those people didn't need to take as much risk, and perhaps they were a little bit less concerned over the last couple of months, especially if they're closer to retirement. And so in those situations, we would say, oh, well, the managed accounts underperform the target date, but that's a good thing. In other situations, you may have people who are underfunded, who have a lot of Social Security and pension covering their retirement needs. And if you have a lot of participants in your plan that look like that, managed accounts is going to be more aggressive than the average target date fund. And in that situation, managed accounts performance will look good. And if you think about either of those situations, they're not a measure of skill of the managed accounts provider. They're a measure, or they're a reflection of the risk that is needed in the plan. And so when we look at the returns of managed accounts in general, there's some evidence that perhaps they're slightly better than target date funds, but that's because they have a slightly more aggressive glide path than the average target date fund. But what we would say is, look, in the end of the day, it's all going to come down to the risk level that is needed by each participant. That's going to be the driver of returns. And so if you're attempting to measure the value or skill of the managed accounts, that really isn't the right place to start. So if that's not the right place to start, then we have to offer up a different place. And we would say that the value of a managed account comes in three forms: the value of financial planning, the value of personalization, and the value of behavioral improvements. And so you see returns isn't in this list. It's all about financial planning, personalization, behavioral improvements. The hard part of those three value features is that it's difficult to just show the returns of one versus some benchmark and see if the value is worth the fee. And so that's really what the meat of the paper does, is it looks at a process to assign annual basis points value to each of those different features. And we're going to walk you through a sample here. So in the financial planning category, we can help sometimes with Social Security optimization. And so what we do in order to establish the annual basis points benefit of Social Security optimization is start with a benchmark. And our benchmark for a financial planning feature would be, what do participants do on their own? And so with something like Social Security, we look up the information and find that 42% of people claim Social Security before their full retirement age. 42% of people claim Social Security at 62. 50% of people claim it before their full retirement age. On average, that costs them about $4,000 a year. So for those people claiming Social Security early, they lose about $4,000 a year in income in retirement. So there's our benchmark. Within the managed accounts, if we could get them to just claim Social Security at their full retirement age, that means 50% of people won't be losing $4,000, or we're generating an extra $2,000 a year in income in retirement. So that's our benefit. And then what we have to do is convert that into an annual basis points number. And the reason that we do that is because the fee of a managed account is an annual basis points. And so we want to show the benefits relative to the fee. And there's a process that you can do that where essentially you look at the excess returns needed in retirement to generate $2,000. And long story short, you need to beat the market by about 67 basis points each year in retirement to generate an extra $2,000. And so by using this process where we establish a benchmark of what participants would do on their own, estimating the annual benefit of improving that behavior, and then converting that into an annual basis points number, we can then compare the benefits of a financial planning features relative to the fee of a managed account. And as Joe mentioned, some of those other financial planning features are dynamic withdrawal strategies, so helping people adjust how much they should take out of their account each year in retirement based on how markets are moving. Tax-efficient withdrawal strategies, so doing that in a tax-efficient manner. Pre-tax versus Roth advice, how people will figure out what contribution. And so for each of those, we'll go over what the estimated value is. Now, there is one issue with this approach, which is the value isn't equal across age or engagement. So if we look at that Social Security claiming example, it's easy to argue that for a 60-year-old or 65-year-old, having a good Social Security claiming strategy makes sense. However, for a 35-year-old, that's a much more difficult argument. And so we break everything down in terms of the value being for older participants and younger participants. And what we would say is that for younger participants, something like Social Security claiming has absolutely no value. We also break things down in terms of engaged and unengaged. Another way to think of that might be defaulted, and then those people who are actively enrolled or actively take part of the service. And so for someone that's defaulted into managed accounts, that doesn't pay attention to our calls, that doesn't look at any of the emails, that doesn't look at any of the communication that goes out constantly, and unfortunately, no matter how much we communicate, there's still some of those people. We can't claim that there's any value in Social Security claiming because we can't go claim Social Security on their behalf. And so we also break everything down between engaged and unengaged. And for something like Social Security claiming, we would say, well, that really only applies to older participants who are engaged, and therefore they're the only ones who see that full 67 basis points of value. And so we'll summarize all of that shortly in a couple of slides. So we talked about financial planning being a huge benefit. We also see personalization as being a huge benefit. Within a managed accounts, as Joe said, it's fully integrated into our platform. That means that we pass over all of the record kept data that a managed accounts needs in order to create a customized allocation. And so what you see on this page are 2 sample glide paths and then a representation of 10,000 individuals who are run through the managed accounts engine using only record kept data. And the blue bubbles are managed accounts participants, the red and the orange line are target date funds. And what you can see is that based on managed accounts personalization, the blue bubbles and the red and orange lines have a lot of overlap, say up until about 35. And so what that would tell us is, look, the value of personalization, of having a more personalized allocation in managed accounts relative to target date funds, isn't that great when you're younger, because for the most part, 97% equity is probably the right answer for almost every younger participant. But as you're getting closer and closer to retirement, you can see how even just using record kept data, the blue bubbles begin to diverge from the other lines. And that shows us that those participants, have very different financial situations from one another. So like 2 50-year-olds have a very different financial situation relative to 2 25-year-olds. And those differences in financial situations drive towards more personalized recommendations. And so when we look at the value of personalization, what we would say is it starts out relatively low when you're younger, but then tends to increase rather significantly because there is no one right allocation for 2 50-year-olds. Another reason that we love the partnership that we have with RPAG and FlexPath, because they have those target date funds that actually can help address some of that need for personalization earlier on in retirement. Another way to look at this is also say just the how much personalized data does help. So what we have here is only using 4 data points, how managed accounts would allocate individuals in retirement. And you can see it's a little bit different representation, but there's some level of personalization, again, just using the record kept data that we have relative to what you would get out of a target date fund. And then if we look at the next slide, which is, so what happens when people tell us about more information, like their outside assets, like their spousal assets, like other pension and Social Security? You can see how the personalization increases rather significantly. And so when you're thinking about that engaged versus unengaged, there is value in personalization even for the unengaged or the defaulted person, but it increases in value as you add more data. So the last piece I'll touch on, and Joe already talked about it, is the benefits of mitigating negative behavioral tendencies. So as Joe said, over the last couple of months, we've seen managed accounts participants are much more likely to stay the course. in the Made to Measure paper, we reference a few other studies over different time periods where you see that individual investors making poor timing decisions results in significant underperformance. And because managed accounts participants are more likely to stay the course over markets like we've seen recently, then we can say that we've mitigated some of those negative behavioral tendencies, and there's a way to estimate the value of that. And so at the conclusion of the paper, what we do is we summarize the annual basis points value of each of the features that you find within a managed account. We break it down between engaged and unengaged, younger and older. And what you see is, based on our estimates, for an unengaged or defaulted person, managed accounts add somewhere between 55 and 92 basis points of value. That's before the fee, so you'd subtract the fee from this in order to get to the net value. And you could also, for the engaged participant, it adds somewhere between 152 and 258 basis points. The other trend that you see here is that the value of managed accounts increases as you get closer to retirement. And that is why we launched our product called Dynamic Retirement Manager, which Annette is going to talk to you about now.
Thanks, Brian. So as Brian had mentioned, personalization is a key factor to driving successful outcomes for participants, especially when they're nearing retirement. I'm going to kickstart this section by discussing the 2019 Cerulli study. Cerulli interviewed target date fund managers and asked them, what do you think the future of the target date fund is going to look like? 92% of those surveyed thought it was going to incorporate some sort of transition to managed accounts, while 79% thought it was going to be customized at the participant level. This perspective is widely adopted across our industry, and FlexPath is a really great example, with first coming out with the My Retirement Path target date funds that are customized on the participant level with the multiple glide paths based off of a participant's risk tolerance. This is now a great addition with advisor managed accounts that's customized at the participant level as well. Other target date fund managers like American Funds, State Street have all come out with a version of their target date funds that incorporates a transition into managed accounts. And this is all possible with what we call Dynamic Retirement Manager. Before I get into the details on what Dynamic Retirement Manager is and how it works, I just want to provide a really quick overview of the different types of implementation methods that could be utilized to add managed accounts to your plan today. So option one is you could choose to add managed accounts to the FlexPath managed account version as an opt-in basis, meaning it's available to the plan, and participants, in order to enroll in the program, would have to make an active election to enroll on the participant experience, or they could call into our call center to enroll in the program. The second option that you could implement managed accounts would be to add it as an option for participants to opt in, and then as well as changing the QDIA. You could choose first to change the QDIA for those who are defaulted today and the QDIA ongoing, or you could choose to reset the plan to the new QDIA option. Brian talked a lot about how employees allocate to risk extremes. They lack sometimes proper diversification. This is exactly now more than ever a time to be resetting participants, and Dynamic Retirement Manager really shines in this process. So what is it? Participants are transitioned from a target date fund to managed accounts based off of the transition age or criteria. This transition age is determined by the plan fiduciary. Typically, we see anywhere between 45 to 50 selected. So as an example, let's assume 45 is the transition age. Participants under 45 would be defaulted into the target date fund. And then when they reach 45, would be transitioned to the managed account program. If the participant is over 45 at the time of the transition, they would be defaulted to the managed account program. I've said the word default probably 30 times in the last 30 seconds, and the reason why is this is just for defaulted participants. Anyone at any point in time could choose to opt out by simply going online to the participant experience and making a positive investment election, meaning they could choose to stay in their target date fund that they were previously in, or make it an investment outside of that, and then they would be removed from the Dynamic Retirement Manager QDIA. Fees for the program also only apply for those who are in the managed accounts and enrolled in the service. So we're not charging a fee for just adding DRM as the QDIA. It's just those who are enrolled in the program, and we'll go through the fees in more detail later on throughout this presentation, but it's an important takeaway. We're also giving those who are defaulted the first 60 days free. We're doing everything humanly possible throughout this transition phase to get participants engaged with us. We're sending them an email when they first enroll in Dynamic Retirement Manager to explain what it is. And then prior to transitioning them from the target date fund to the managed account solution, we're giving them 90, 60, and 30 days notification. And then once they're enrolled, similar to the enrollment process for anyone who's enrolling into managed accounts, we're going to send them proactively a welcome kit. This welcome kit comes in the mail and it explains their initial recommendation, what the program is. And then also we're going to give them a proactive call. During this call, we discuss the welcome kit. We discuss the recommendation that the program has assigned for the participant. And lastly, we help personalize their account, so gathering those key data points beyond what's just collected on the record-keeping system. Then we're staying in contact with participants throughout their savings journey by providing them an annual update. We've had a lot of success with the welcome calls that I just mentioned. So we did a survey of the first 500 that were done for participants transitioning from the target date funds to the managed accounts. And of those 500, 492 participants chose to stay in managed accounts once they spoke to a representative. And the remaining portion chose to stay with the target date fund that they were previously invested in. We've had a lot of success with Dynamic Retirement Manager as well on our platform. We now have over 700 fans utilizing this as a dual QDIA with with $6 billion in assets under administration. Joe had mentioned earlier on in the presentation that we've also had a lot of success with DRM as a QDIA within advisor managed accounts, with 34% of AMA plans utilizing DRM or managed accounts as the QDIA. I'm going to go ahead and pass things over to Jonathan now, who's going to walk through the portfolio construction process.
Great. Thank you, Annette. And good morning from the surprisingly not so sunny California. On behalf of RPAG, and as Nick mentioned earlier, we are so excited about our partnership with Empower and the many solutions we've created together, including FlexPath managed accounts. But before I introduce one of the brilliant minds behind the methodology and process of our managed accounts with Empower, I would be remiss if I didn't at least briefly highlight a major development that led us to where we are today, and, by the way, shows a tremendous amount of synergy between RPAG's thought leadership and what Empower is now focused on, being the value of advice and participant solutions tailored to an individual participant's needs. I'm sure most, if not all, on the call today will recognize 5 years ago, we too decided we could do better for participants than simply asking their date of birth when determining an optimal portfolio allocation. We all know how much participants need help, which is why something like a target date fund makes so much sense and has seen such incredible traction over the past 10 to 15 years. But if you look at a participant's optimal equity allocation by age, according to Morningstar, represented here by these blue bubbles, our industry solution, at least historically, has been your off-the-shelf, one-size-fits-all, single glide path target date fund, which also happens to generally follow a more aggressive risk profile. Vertically, we're looking at the equity allocation or risk in the portfolio, and horizontally, we're looking at the age of participants with the dotted line representing retirement or participants age 65. So while some participants, and let me back up here, it looks like it jumped ahead, some participants may fit or follow along that optimal allocation or fall near it, you can clearly see this one-size-fits-all approach is woefully deficient in addressing the needs of the majority of participants. Now, while a managed account is perhaps the most tailored, customized participant solution, it's also generally a best fit or of the most value to a participant who has had enough time to accumulate a more complex financial situation than, let's say, your average younger savers, as Brian alluded to earlier. So how do we bridge the gap between the somewhat limited benefit of a traditional target date fund and the fully customized managed account? By creating a custom multi-glide path target date fund that allows us to provide greater coverage and customization for a larger percent of a plan's participants from day one of their investing journey. I'm happy to say that for the first time ever, we created a custom version of FlexPath with Empower for both the index and blend flavors, Hopefully you're all well aware. We're not going to get into the nitty-gritty details, but they are called My Retirement Path and My Retirement Path Index. These solutions are a perfect pairing alongside the managed accounts. Again, instead of using a single factor to determine an optimal portfolio, participants now have the ability to dial in a more suitable fit from the first day they begin contributing to their retirement plan. And by the way, these custom target date funds are often comparable or lower cost than their traditional off-the-shelf counterparts. Then, when their financial situation becomes more complex and can benefit from even greater customization, the value of managed accounts becomes evidently clear. And by the way, for a cost that is not much more than a traditional target date fund. But we'll save that for a bit later in the presentation. I would now like to introduce Jeff Keeling, Director of Investment Research here at RPAG, and part of the team that helped create the FlexPath managed accounts at Empower. Jeff, over to you.
Great. Well, thank you, Jonathan. And hello, everybody. Thanks for calling in today. I wanted to spend some time talking about our role in the managed accounts and how we specifically construct the building blocks of the managed accounts. And so in our role, we build 6 model portfolios. We have 3 that are for the accumulation phase. We have a conservative, moderate, and aggressive. And also we have a conservative, moderate, and aggressive model for the retirement or decumulation phase. And just go to the next page. And those models are the building blocks that Morningstar then takes all the different data and will blend those models to build that optimal allocation for each participant. So really the first step of our process is building the asset allocation for each one of those models. And here we have an example of the accumulation models that we built. And our investment committee each year builds long-term capital market return assumptions for each asset class. And then with that, we obviously look at the volatility of each asset class as well as the correlations among the asset classes to build allocations for each of those model portfolios that fall on the efficient frontier. In other words, to ensure that for a given level of risk, we're maximizing return. So the first step again is building that asset allocation. And then from there, we build the actual models by selecting different managers to fill those buckets. And here you can see the example of our accumulation and decumulation models. Now, one of the bigger differences between the accumulation and decumulation models is the use of inflation hedging in the retirement phase. And for the reason for that is that we think about this not only from just a simple construction of the model on efficient frontier, but also consider the human capital. And if you think about, a participant's wages, that really serves as a natural inflation hedge in their overall portfolio, so to speak, because typically when there is inflation in the market, that will flow through to the wages. And so that's where, for us, we want to start to build in more inflation hedging as participants will move away from that natural inflation hedge with their human capital. So here you can see the models, and what happens with these models is that Morningstar will take all the individual data and determine the optimal allocation to equity for each participant. And then based on age and that optimal allocation to equity, Morningstar will then blend typically 2 to 3 of these different models to arrive at that optimal allocation for each participant. So if you can see here, we have, with both the accumulation and decumulation models, the conservative model has about 10% equity, the moderate has 50% equity, and the aggressive has 97% equity. So the example that we have here today shows you the index version where we're using collective investment trusts to keep costs low. But in addition to this, we will have a 403B version that uses mutual funds, so that if you have 403B clients, they can also gain access to managed accounts. And additionally, we'll be able to build a hybrid solution that blends in some active management as well. And so that's the quick overview on the portfolio construction and how we build the models. And now I'm going to turn it back to Brian.
Thank you. So last thing that we'll cover are costs and sales coverage. But I'll remind you, there is a Q&A widget link on the bottom of your presentation. If you have any questions, please enter them via that Q&A section. We'd be happy to answer them at the end of the call. So we talked about all the wonderful benefits. You have the FlexPath RPAG team working, building these portfolios, personalization, higher savings rates, financial planning, behavioral improvements. And we think adds tremendous amount of value relative to the fees that FlexPath is charging for this product. And so you can see, so there's two different sections or pricing schemes. The first would be for plans that have the My Fiduciary Path 338 service. If you have that service at the plan, then the managed accounts fee, so that's the fee for those participants in managed accounts. If it's a new plan, I think new plan means it's coming to Empower or it's already at Empower and it doesn't have managed accounts. If it's a new plan, then the fee for participants that are in the managed accounts is 40 basis points. If it's an existing plan, it's already here, we already have managed accounts, the fee is tiered from 40 down to 20. If you don't want to use the My Fiduciary Path 338 service, but you do want to use the FlexPath managed account, you can do that. It just comes at the higher fees that you see on the right-hand side. Now, other important considerations is, as Joe said, we are fully aligned with RPAG and FlexPath on this product. And as a result, we are giving record-keeping credits to the entire plan if you use Dynamic Retirement Manager as your default. So if you select DRM as your default with FlexPath AMA, we will reduce the record-keeping cost by 5 basis points for any new plan coming on. If it's an existing plan, we'll take a look at what that does to plan profitability and see if those credits are still available. Also, you can use My Retirement Path target dates with DRM. So you talked about, it's a great solution to couple those two things together. If you do that, we're using, again, those target date funds and DRM. The credit goes up to 8 basis points for the entire plan. And of course, you could use managed accounts as an opt-out, which would go to 8 basis points. So you have a lot of different options here to get full plan pricing credits. And again, this is the same that we give for our Empower Street product. This is the best you could get in terms of plan pricing credits at Empower. This is all for plans under $50 million. As you get to plans over $50 million, we custom price things, and sometimes it gets a little bit more complicated than this, but the easy thing to know is that prices go down from here as plan sizes go up. So if you have larger plans, come talk to us, and we'd be happy to talk to you about a custom pricing model. And when I say come talk to us, what I really mean is come talk to one of your GWI wholesalers or your Empower rep. So Great West Investments has a team of people that are dedicated to doing nothing but talk about managed accounts and advisor managed accounts. They are experts on these products. If you have questions, they have answers. Recently, Ken Monroe, who ran the entire West sales division for Empower, decided that he thought the future of our business was advisor managed accounts, and so he has taken on a new role where he is exclusively focused on custom asset allocation solutions offered through Empower. and the biggest of those being advisor managed accounts. And then you can see the individuals that support the different market regions. And so these are your experts. Empower record-keeping salespeople also know these products really well. We train them constantly. If you have questions, they have answers. So please feel free to reach out to them.